doing is demanding large amounts of money shamelessly was really fantastic.
Okay, so before we get to the details of the legal case, let's talk about the story of her marriage. At 15 years old, she falls in love with a man named Hussein.
Yes.
She says that he becomes addicted to opium and becomes violent. Tell us more about their relationship.
Well, the way she described it was she really was head over heels in love when she meets him. And once she discovered that he was using drugs, at first she didn't even really understand what these drugs were. She was like, it's okay. I love him so much. I'll fix him. Years go by. She has 3 children. She realizes there's no fixing it. And he gets more and more violent. She attempts to get a divorce. But being that it's the Iranian legal system, only a man can easily just go and say, I want a divorce without having any reason. A woman really has to have whatever that judge in front of them considers valid reason. And in her case, apparently the judge said, lady, your fight is like a kindergarten fight. Go home and fix things with your husband.
Now, here in the United States, some women who've killed abusive partners have gotten leniency in court if they prove it was in self-defense. In Tahereh's case, she says she strangled her husband, who may have threatened to sell their daughter to a drug dealer, but then instead of calling police to confess and claim self-defense, she and her daughters dig a hole and try to hide his body. What were they thinking?
I think they were thinking they would get away with it. There is some doubt as to whether she actually is the one that killed her husband or not.
Right, and it's fascinating because many different people actually took responsibility for the crime, and yet Tahereh said, no, it was only I was the only one who did it.
Yeah.
In the end, with all this conflicting information, we learned that she might have been potentially protecting other people because the shame of having had a potential affair would have been even worse than the shame of murdering her own husband. Is that right?
Yes, and that is exactly why I make documentaries. That sort of moment where it's like, oh my God, I get to explore the value system of this culture.
Another person we meet in this film is Mohsen, who's Tahereh's son, a young man who was only just 6 when his father was killed. His father's family entirely shunned him. He ends up in an orphanage, as he describes it in the film. And then he says that even though initially he was angry with his mother, he becomes her most passionate advocate.
Yes.
He really emerges for me as the hero of this story. His mom seems to have completely given up.
What's interesting is the way you looked at Tahereh right now as someone who has just given up. And, at some point she says, go ahead and kill me. I'm not raising that kind of money. When the Iranians sees this, they kind of understand that she sort of means that, but she's also using that as a negotiation tactic, which is, I don't really care if I die, so lower your price, There's some truth to it, but there's also like, oh yeah, you're trying to get $40,000 out of me? Well, guess what? I don't even value myself, so good luck with that.
Wow. There's another key person in your film, an older woman who's an anti-execution activist. And
yes, Ms. Jabar-Zadegan.
Talk to us about her.
She has devoted her life to really trying to stop as many executions as she can. And this is Sharia law. This is not just for women. Executions are for men, for women. I just happened to pick a story that was about a woman. And this is what she does. She spends her time trying to get the sides to come to some sort of agreement where forgiveness is the end goal and some sort of money is exchanged.
You would think that anti-death penalty folks would want to negotiate to end the death penalty, but they're not doing that. They're actually working on just trying to come up with deals, begging families to have sympathy and have mercy and accept lower prices.
I think you work in the system that you are in. She is aware of the limits of the Iranian society and its judicial system. She's not going to be able to come up against a theocracy. It's not a democracy to try to end executions. But she does know that because it's Sharia law, that there's this potential opening where you can get forgiveness via blood money. So what she has done is essentially she's created this cottage industry, and she goes to philanthropists that feel the same way, and they get people off death row like this.
You know, I was struck that at one point she's negotiating with them. They want the money price raised for the blood money. And she says, well, I have this case with a juvenile who's on death row. And, you know, I can take X amount of money away from this juvenile's essentially blood money offer and give it over to you.
Yeah, that's like shaming him at the same time.
It's so painful to listen to it. And at the same time, it's also so painful to see Hossein, the dead man's family, who are in such pain and rage that they just seem determined they want blood.
Well, I think that's one of the main tensions of the film. And while making it, I constantly questioned how much of the rage is really truly rage, or are they playing up this rage as a negotiation tactic where it's like, we're still really angry, and so we want this much money versus like 5,000, we want 45,000. And Mo Santara's son repeatedly says, and this is very culturally significant, I would have a lot more respect for my uncle and my cousin if they insisted on the death penalty for my mom. But what they really want is a bundle of cash.
So after all this time and incredible access that you got to the Iranian system, to authorities and to families, what are some of the takeaways that you want to share with an American audience who doesn't have access to what's going on in Iran, especially at a time when our two countries are at war?
This is a look at how brilliant Iranians are at negotiating. And if you notice it, they're negotiating till the courtroom, the last minute. The negotiations are still happening. And as I look at what's happening right now with the war in Iran, this is exactly what's going to like they're going to be negotiating till this is how Iranians negotiate. Like, if you want to get a sense of the 2 steps forward, 1 step back, no one really budges, and then finally there's some sort of ending. It's a parallel situation.
Tanaz Ashegian is co-director along with Farzad Jafari of the new documentary An Eye for an Eye. For more information on how to watch it, you can go to hereandnow.org. Tanaz, what an extraordinary and suspenseful story, literally up to the last minute. Thank you so much for sharing it with us.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure.
You're listening to Here and Now.
Hey, it's A. Martinez, and I want you to cast your mind back to all the road trips you've had with that car of yours. Of all the miles you've racked up on the odometer, how many hours were spent listening to public radio? If mileage has taken its toll over the years, donate that car, truck, or RV to this station. You'll help everyone put more miles on their radio with hours and hours of thought-provoking news and information. Here's how.
Go to radioiq.org and click the support tab and select vehicle donation.
On the next Fresh Air, when you're dieting to lose weight, human evolution is often working against you. We'll talk about why with Daniel Lieberman, author of Fed Up and founder of Harvard's Department of Evolutionary Biology. He'll also talk about diets he's tested and the often contradictory information about what's healthy to eat and what's not. Join us.
That's Fresh Air, Monday through Thursday at 2 p.m. on Radio IQ.
Funding for Here and Now comes from the listeners of WBUR Boston and MathWorks, creator of MATLAB and Simulink, to design and develop engineered systems, accelerating the pace of discovery in engineering and science. Learn more at mathworks.com. And the Here and Now Anytime podcast. Up First starts the conversation. Later in the day, the Here and Now Anytime podcast continues it and goes deep. The Here and Now Anytime podcast, available on Apple, Spotify, and the NPR app.
It's Here and Now. Fans today are grieving the death of actress Hayden Panettiere at age 36. Panettiere starred in commercials as a baby and made her film debut in Pixar's A Bug's Life at age 10. She may be best remembered for her TV roles in Heroes and Nashville and for speaking openly about her struggles. Her memoir, This Is Me, came out in May and detailed unwanted advances from powerful older men in Hollywood, near-fatal childbirth, postpartum depression, giving up custody custody of her daughter and addiction. Her father, Skip Panettiere, called her, quote, an incredible light and a force of nature who brought immeasurable love and joy to all who knew her. She is survived by her 11-year-old daughter.
Folk and rock music have been associated with social movements ever since the civil rights era. But classical music, not so much. Cello superstar Yo-Yo Ma wants to change that. This month, he wrapped up a series of performances and public conversations at the Tanglewood Festival, where he asked audiences to reflect on the country's past and future. Karen Brown of New England Public Media reports from the Berkshires in western Massachusetts.
When I first met Yo-Yo Ma, he was warm and self-deprecating. Here's how he introduced himself when we talked on the sprawling grounds of Tanglewood, the classical music venue in the Berkshires.
My name is Yo-Yo Ma. I'm an aging cellist.
Never mind, he's probably the world's best-known cellist, famous since he was 7 when he played for President John F. Kennedy. More recently, he founded the Silk Road Ensemble, a global musical collaboration. So when Yo-Yo Ma, now 70, takes on a project, people listen. For his latest, based at Tanglewood, Ma curated a week of concerts, public conversations, and community events to reflect on the American experiment. It's called We the People.
Obviously, we're going through the 250th celebration, but also at a time when I think, in many ways, we, the people, we, the species, are at an inflection point. Where are we going?
Hopefully, he says, somewhere that celebrates diverse voices, including immigrants, indigenous people, and youth. Throughout the week, Ma weaved his own performances with the Boston Symphony Orchestra, together with high school marching bands and Native American storytellers. He booked a Latino block party in the theater pavilion and a square dance on the lawn.
Make an arch, couple number 1, you make an arch, couple number 2.
One evening, he introduced a student performance of Beethoven's Pastoral Symphony, played without a conductor.
Their experiment is to agree on how to play and feel together without a single leader, an example of musical democracy.
When putting together the program, Ma says he looked for collaborators with a hopeful message, using the lens of a grandfather.
You can't be cynical with your grandchildren. You have to have hope. You know, my youngest granddaughter is 2 years old. Who can actually help us think about a world she would want to live in?
His picks included folk singer James Taylor, political historian Heather Cox Richardson, and Alabama civil rights lawyer Brian Stevenson, who founded several memorials to the legacy of slavery.
I think music has always been an important part of the struggle to create a more just America. Without the spirituals, many of the 10 million black people who were enslaved in this country would not have been able to cope with the constant terror, violence, and assault.
But over the past century of injustices, Stevenson says many musicians, especially in classical music, have looked the other way.
Yo-Yo Ma stands, I think, on the opposite side of that tradition. He is a musician that refuses to be silent in the face of the kind of horrors we've seen throughout history, and I think that's an important model for other musicians and for other artists and people who love music and art.
Composer Allison Loggins Hull, whose work was performed at the event, says she's grateful classical music institutions like Tanglewood are starting to take that kind of risk.
I can say that there has been a significant change, much more willingness to have these type of discussions that maybe aren't directly about music or the tradition, but more about the responsibility of just being a citizen.
Ma insists that We the People is not political, and neither is he. Diversity, he says, speaks for itself.
So it's not like I don't have a political agenda. I'm actually for the good of people. And instead of protesting, I just like to join things together. And, you know, why shouldn't we be one community?
The next day, he put on sneakers and a polo shirt to play cello on the street as part of a local busking festival. For NPR News, I'm Karen Brown in Western Massachusetts.
Here and Now is a production of NPR and WBUR. I'm Rob Schmitz.
I'm Indira Lakshmanan. It's Here and Now.
Funding for Here and Now comes from the listeners of WBUR Boston and the Museum of Science, Boston, with live demonstrations and hands-on exhibits that explore the wonders of Earth and space and the science that connects them for curious minds of all ages. More at mos.org.
Hidden Brain, the NPR show and podcast, is coming to Blacksburg Friday, August 28th at 7 at Virginia Tech Center for the Arts. It's only one of 6 stops in the U.S. The date has been moved up from our earlier notice. Tickets are now available through the Center for the Arts website or box office, or you can access that link at radioiq.org. If you're already a Radio IQ contributor, check your email for important information. Join us for Hidden Brain Live in Blacksburg, presented by Freedom First Credit Union, August 28th.
Hi, I'm Nick Yee, Radio IQ's new Director of Content and Operations, reminding you that you can take Radio IQ with you wherever you go. Simply download the Radio IQ app and listen to your favorite NPR programming and local news. Enjoy.
You're listening to Radio IQ on WVTF Roanoke, WRIQ Charles City Richmond, WVTU Charlottesville, WVTW Charlottesville, WVTR Marion, WISC FM Wise, WQIQ Spotsylvania, WIQR Lexington, WEHC Emory, HD3 of WURV Richmond, and on 92.5 Richmond and 94.9 Fredericksburg. Radio IQ, a listener-supported community service of Virginia Tech, on your smart speaker and online at radioiq.org.
All right. Welcome to the 2 o'clock meeting of the Roanoke City Council. I will ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Mr. Nash.
Here.
Mr. Vollis. Ms. Powers.
Here.
Mr. Hagan.
Here.
Ms. Sanchez-Jones. Here. Mayor Cobb is absent today, and Vice Mayor McGuire.
Here. A quorum is present. Mayor Cobb is traveling with his daughter, getting her settled into college, so we congratulate her and wish him safe travels back. I will start with a couple of announcements. City Council meetings will be televised live and replayed on RVTV Channel 3 on Thursdays at 7 p.m. and Saturdays from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. and video streamed through YouTube Live at youtube.com/RoanokeVA.gov, which is Roanoke VA. Council meetings are offered with closed captioning for the deaf or hard of hearing. And a couple of other announcements. The Council of the City of Roanoke is seeking applications for various vacancies on council-appointed authorities, boards, commissions, and committees. Please access the city's website at www.roanokeva.gov to complete an online application. We will turn to our second item of the agenda and do our presentations and acknowledgements. We have none except for we'll do our council shout-outs.
Vice Mayor, pledge.
Oh, yes.
Oh, you have to do the invocation and the pledge.
You know, thank you so much. I was flipping back. Thank you so much. For the invocation, I really appreciate that, Ms. McCoy. We will call up the Reverend Terry Kemp with the children's pastor and ministries director at the Fort Chiswell Church of God for our invocation. And I hope he's here, or I'll be doing the prayer.
Let us pray. Almighty God, we thank you for this beautiful day and the many blessings you bestow upon each of us. We thank you for this opportunity to live and serve in this city, and for the talents you've given each of us to benefit this community for your glory. We ask your blessing on each member of council and on your city leaders and their responsibilities to represent all citizens of this city in a professional and impartial manner. We pray for wisdom and vision in our endeavors to put forth our best effort each day in performing our duties and civic responsibilities. Let us acknowledge the importance of each viewpoint presented here today so that we may partner together in our efforts to achieve continued success. We pray for your divine inspiration for decisions made in this chamber today and in the days to come. We ask you keep your protective hand over our city, especially our children and teachers as they begin a new school year. Almighty God, inspire us to pursue even greater achievements as the city of Roanoke continues to be a leading example of civic progress and partnership. Inspire each of us to always approach our responsibilities with integrity and a desire for excellence that benefits the citizens of this city. We also pray for unity in our nation so as not to be divided by political differences, but working collectively in our continued pursuit of community, pride, and accomplishment. In your holy name we pray. Amen. Reverend Kemp, I'll lead us in the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you again, Ms. McCoy. Now we can turn to council shout-outs, and I'll start right to my left here with Councilman Nash.
Gosh, I don't ever think about these council shout-outs. I mean,
you can pass, skip, and come back to you.
No, I'm not passing. I'm not passing. You know what? I'm a shout-out. This is not anything I've done, but I'll use this time to shout out our teachers and all school staff and our students that are returning back to schools. We know that it's a nerve-wracking time for some of those kids that are just now starting school, some of those going on to middle school and high school, and the teachers as well. And so they are in my thoughts and my prayers, and I wish them a very successful and learning-filled school year.
Allison.
Shout out the Indian Heritage Festival that happened this past weekend. Always a great event, and thank you to Sunny Shaw and all the others that put that together every year. It's always wonderful to see that cultural diversity here in the city.
So I have a shout out to the Festival of India as well. It was a great opportunity to be there and to enjoy their culture and their food. I also want to do a shout out to the Roanoke City Police Department, who just a few weeks ago graduated 12 new officers. So I want to congratulate them and welcome them to the city of Roanoke. And another thing I also want to remind people of is that, as Councilman Nash said about our schools are open, so lots of school buses out there in the mornings. And, I witnessed this week somebody who just didn't stop when the sign was out to stop. They went around me and then went on around. So please be mindful of that, because you don't know which way those children are going to be crossing the street. So that's my shout out for them.
Right. So going to shout out Neighborhood Services for their National Night Out work that they did down at Eureka Park. That was amazing. It was a great event, and specifically Molly Hunter putting it all together, working with a bunch of people, put it all together, as well as the band that I found out were city employees. They were awesome, like volunteer and everything like that. So we really do appreciate it.
My shout out goes to Roanoke City Public Schools on their Back to School extravaganza, as well as Valerie Brown with the Commonwealth Games, and all the people that donated towards all the back to school supplies that were gathered all this past couple of weeks. So I just want to thank everyone. And I also want to give a shout out to Ms. Turner for including in your page your weekly report. So thank you very much.
Ms. Sanchez-Jones. I have a couple quick ones. I was able to join 3 of the National Night Out events and had a really good time at those. I was able to swing by Lincoln Terrace, Morningside Manor, and Eureka Park. And that was my first time actually getting to go over and walk around the new Eureka Park. I missed the ribbon cutting. And if you have not had a chance to check that out, it is a really beautiful facility. So go over there and walk around. And the other event I was able to attend, which was just nice and lighthearted, was a red-shouldered hawk release that the Southwest Virginia Wildlife Center released in Morningside Park last Friday. That is another beautiful park that I had not been to in a while. So if you are looking to get outside and kind of be alone in nature, you can head right over to Morningside Park and you kind of feel like you're all by yourself. We had one more shout out, I'm told. Mr. Nash wanted to pile one more on.
So I had made a note for my shout outs because I always get caught lacking. But I wanted to shout out, we had 2 music festivals that happened in Elmwood Park last weekend. The All-American Music Festival and Something in the Mountains. One was on Friday night, the other one was on Saturday night. And it was great to see a diversity in our entertainment offerings. It was not folk or bluegrass or country, it was rap and hip hop. So it's always good to see some diversification, especially catering to younger demographics and generations in our city.
Thank you very much. We will move now to item 3 on our agenda, which is the hearing of citizens upon public matters. City Council sets this time as a priority for citizens to be heard. All matters will be referred to the city manager for response, recommendation, or report to the council as she may deem appropriate. Madam Clerk, do we have any citizens signed up to speak?
We have 2 citizens, and I'll call them both. First, Deborah Carter, followed by Director Frida Cathcart.
Thank you very much, Ms. McCoy. Come on up. Good to see you, Ms. Carter. We are grateful to everyone who has signed up to speak. There are just 2 of you today, so you'll have 3 minutes. You know how this goes, I'm pretty sure, Ms. Carter, but you'll see the green light, begin speaking, 1 minute, 5 minutes. We're going to do 5 minutes. I like it. How about that? So whenever you're ready, you can go ahead.
Good afternoon, Vice Mayor and other members of council. My name is Deborah Carter, and I am here today for Pedal Safe ROA. I want to talk specifically about connectivity between Northwest Roanoke and our greenway system. We have greenways, the problem is getting to them. For some traveling without a car, particularly someone walking, biking, using a scooter, or using another mobility device, the distance between a neighborhood and a greenway may only be a few blocks. But those few blocks include high-speed roads, intersections without safe crossings, sidewalks that end, and streets with no protected place to travel. That's the missing piece in Northwest. And this is exactly where the Safety Action Plan's neighborhood connectivity and micro-mobility recommendations matter. Protected mobility lanes, neighborhood routes on commerce streets, safe crossings, and wayfinding can connect the infrastructure we already have instead of requiring people to navigate dangerous roads between disconnected pieces. I experienced that problem firsthand. I can travel several miles safely once I'm on appropriate infrastructure. It's the getting to that infrastructure that's often the dangerous part. Just last weekend, coming home from Walmart, yet again, Google Maps routed me down a street, what appeared to be a connected neighborhood street. It turned into an unmaintained alley. I ended up off-roading on my scooter with my wagon full of groceries just trying to get home from shopping. That's the difference between a route that connects on a map and a transportation network that actually works. I'm asking council to prioritize and fund connections between Northwest neighborhoods and the Lick Run and Roanoke River Greenways as the city implements the Safety Action Plan. Look at the complete trip from our neighborhoods to the Greenway, identify where that trip becomes unsafe or inaccessible, and fund the crossings and mobility connections needed to close those gaps. And connectivity isn't only about getting to work or the grocery store. For many of our elderly and disabled residents, access to the Greenway means access to nature and independence. When we fail to connect neighborhoods to our greenways, we're not just leaving a gap in the transportation map. We're denying people equitable access to something the city already decided is a public amenity for everyone. The greenway's there. We simply don't have a safe way to reach it. We need to connect those pieces. A greenway someone can't safely reach isn't a transportation infrastructure for that person. Thank you.
Ms. Carter, I really appreciate your comments. Our next speaker, I'm sorry, who was our next?
Director Frida Cathcart.
Director Frida Cathcart. I don't see Director Cathcart. Okay. Were there any other speakers?
No other speakers.
All right, well, we will close the public hearing. And item number four on our agenda is the consent agenda. All matters listed under the consent agenda are considered to be routine by the members of City Council and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of the items. If discussion is desired, the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately. There are two requests for closed meeting from the city attorney. One, to discuss or consider the acquisition of real property for a public purpose and/or the disposition of publicly held real property in the southeast area of the city pursuant to Section 2.2-3711A3 Code of Virginia as amended. And two, to consult with legal counsel regarding a specific legal matter requiring the provision of legal advice by the city attorney regarding potential liability associated with a city-owned infrastructure pursuant to Section 2.2-3711A8 Code of Virginia as amended. I need a motion and a second on approval of the consent agenda.
I'll move the motion.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Powers and Mr. Nash, and I'll ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Mr. Nash?
Aye.
Mr. Volleson?
Aye.
Ms. Powers?
Aye.
Mr. Hagan? Ms. Sanchez Jones? She's out at this point. And Vice Mayor McGuire.
Aye, and the consent agenda is approved. Moving to our regular agenda, we do not have any public hearings today, so we'll move to item number 6, petitions and communications. Item number 1 is acceptance and appropriation of the Victim Witness Program grant from the Department of Criminal Justice Services. We have one measure for adoption, an ordinance, and I need a motion and a second.
Move the ordinance.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Hagan and Mr. Volleson. I will ask the city clerk to please read the title paragraph.
An ordinance accepting the FY27 Victim Witness Program grant from the Department of Criminal Justice Services, authorizing the execution and filing of any required documents on behalf of the city, appropriating grant funds detailed more fully infra, and dispensing with the second reading of this ordinance by title.
Madam City Clerk, is there any discussion among council?
I'll just acknowledge we have our Commonwealth Attorney, John McNeil here.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that, Mr. Nash. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Okay, well, I think we are good to go with no discussion, so I will ask the city clerk to please call the roll.
Mr. Nash?
Aye.
Mr. Volleson?
Aye.
Ms. Powers?
Aye.
Mr. Hagan? Aye. Ms. Sanchez Jones is out, and Vice Mayor McGuire.
Aye, and the ordinance passes. Number 7 on our agenda today will be reports of city officers and the city manager. If I may, would like to call on Ms. Turner to introduce our briefings today.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of City Council, I am pleased to introduce Douglas Jackson, our Arts and Cultural Coordinator, who will present the annual Arts and Cultural Briefing in FY 2027 Public Art Work Plan. This briefing will provide an overview of the Roanoke Arts Commission's accomplishments over the past fiscal year, along with the proposed Public Art Work Plan for FY 2027.
Thank you.
Davis, welcome.
Well, thank you. Thank you
Good to
for
have you.
having us. Good afternoon, and I'd like to greet the Vice Mayor and all members of City Council. This is our annual report on the screen here that our public art policy states we share with the City Council before the end of August every year. In this report, we will do several things, summarizing what we did last year and present our commission-approved plans for the current fiscal year. This year, we're in a planning process, and this is also an invitation for continued input from the community through our ongoing Plan 26 survey. There are 15 appointed members of the Arts Commission, several of whom are here today, and whom I'd like to ask to stand, please. We are here really to thank you for your ongoing support for the arts and the arts in the community, and your recognition of the value of the arts and humanities in advancing the goals of the community. With that, I will ask our Arts and Culture Coordinator, Doug Jackson, to present the annual report. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Davis. Hello, Mr. Jackson.
Well, hi, Vice Mayor, members of council. Thank you so much for having us. It feels like we were just here, but it's been a year, and it's been a really busy year. And this is our chance to really brag on not only the volunteer efforts of the Arts Commission, who do a tremendous amount of work, but also our partners outside of the Arts Commission, both internal to the city and external partners. This morning at 8 o'clock, I was out with Parks and Recreation staff doing some maintenance on a mural, and folks are really working hard, and we're so pleased to be able to do as much as we can because of all those partnerships. So we have, this is a little bit of a bridge time. We had a commission that did the work that we're going to talk about, and we have a new commission. Our chair, William Penn, he termed out. He served as many terms as he could, and then so he's not on the Arts Commission now, but Donna Davis is our new chair, and we've got a terrific group. I have presented with you last week or maybe 2 weeks ago, got to you in advance, our annual report. This is available online as well for the community to read at roanokearts.org/year. I'd like to present this in the shape of our committees. Now, we're tasked by council through an ordinance in 1983 to do a number of things, and that's really the structure of our committees. Plus, we have an executive committee, and that executive committee is really about how we do things. Everything we do is through the committees and the commission, and you don't have to be on the Arts Commission to be on a committee. We've got neighbors who pitch in and help, and it really helps us shape our projects. But it also helps us just do a whole lot more. Now, that is really important because that's how we build community. And we see the work that we're doing making us a stronger community through stronger neighborhoods and stronger organizations. So our collections committee, they maintain our sculpture in the community, our two-dimensional work in the city buildings and libraries. This year, we had a terrific Pilgrim's Creek exhibit. It's out in the hallway for another month. We did a number of workshops. This was really all about connecting to nature and a contemplative practice. We've got artists out doing really tricky things in neighborhoods, doing hard work, and we want to make sure that they've got a grounding practice, and we all need to have that. So it's kind of a question, like how can we be a thoughtful, creative community based in our connection to the nature around us. And that's what the artists outside responded to. We've been doing a lot of maintenance on our collection, and we have an online version of our collection. So everything we have in the city collection, you can see online now. And that's a lot of work. We've got a terrific intern, Sierra Civ, who's really been helping us with that. Now, this coming year, we are going to put a call out for the Elmwood art. We change that out every 2 years, the sculpture in Elmwood Park. We have a sculpture that's going to go next to the bridge in Wasena. We're really excited. It's in the community. We haven't released images of it yet, but we really can't wait for that bridge to open and to see that art next to it. We're going to have a show out in the hallway and maybe even on the first floor, depending on how many we get. We started this off as an employee art show, an arts and crafts show. Celebrating the Roanoke Star and the 50 stars on the flag. And so we're inviting everybody who works for the city, who volunteers for the city, if they're appointed on a commission, if they're elected officials, they can be in the show by making a star. And it can be anything. So there's an application out for that right now. It's at roanokearts.org/star or stars. And it's amazing how many people do volunteer for the city. We think about our tree stewards, the folks building trails, people volunteering in the library, everybody volunteering for the Arts Commission. We're really excited about this. Also, we have hung work by David A. Ramey in the city manager's conference room, and we invite folks to stick their head in there and see this These are 7 works reflecting the history of Henry Street and a lot of what we lost during urban renewal, and it's a really powerful show. And that all happened through the collections committee. And there are some of them when they come and hang the work outside in the hallway and have a lot of fun. And there's one of our community building nights that we did before evening council meetings this year. And here's our flyer, roanokearts.org/stars if you're interested in contributing to that. I can't wait to see what you make.
Obstacles?
All right, and that's one of our things, right? We're all creative in different ways. And people will say, oh, I'm not creative. And then I'll go a little deeper, and they'll say, well, I do quilt. I'm like, well, yes, okay, we want to see a quilt. We want to see a quilt square up on the wall. Our funding committee. Now, separate from the funds that you give to the Arts Commission, we pass through grants to our arts and cultural organizations. This is really important programming money that helps organizations deliver quality arts and cultural events for our community. Last year we had $300,000, and that's what we're hoping we have again this year, and that's the way we'll kind of act. We will open this on December 5th. We always do a how to apply, invite anybody who's interested in applying so they can learn about the program. If you're watching social media right now, you might have seen a video about the funding with Jean Bollendorf with Grandin Theater, and she's here today, and talking about how important those resources are. There's somebody from Roanoke Ballet Theater, and that was at the Belmont Library reading to young people. So these, and then on the right, local colors. These resources really help make the arts alive in our community. Our placemaking committee, Ben Bazak, chair of the placemaking committee, is here with us today. They've been busy. There's an extraordinary amount of work that goes into this committee, and it's really about how are we using the arts to connect to each other and to our place. And the Daisy Art Parade this year was fantastic. We made a lot of papier-mâché things this year. We had 40 groups out celebrating that. This is something that we worked the placemaking committee to help start up through Brian Coonahan. We gave him a grant a few years ago, and we applied for an NEA grant. And now Art Project Roanoke is taking them under their wing. And that's the way we love to see this happen, where we can kind of spark something, use some public resources, and then private resources come and support it. Our Arts Connect Neighbors catalog, we're so proud of this. We did 92 events. We had more than 3,000 people participate in that, and we're committed to continuing to do that. That is taking free art activities into neighborhoods that are organized by the neighborhoods. We've done 5 new murals. We had 6, in partnership with transportation, 6 new signal boxes. And then we're always developing projects. So this committee is always talking to people when they call and say, hey, how do I get a mural in my building? Then this is what this committee is focused on. Now we're going to continue that catalog activity. We've got facilitators who help work with the neighborhood and the artist, help them get more out of their event. Like, what are the goals for your event? How are you trying to bring people together? How can we use the arts to do that in a bigger way? How can we use the arts to get more people who haven't come to some of your events to the events? That's the kind of work that those facilitators are doing, and we use our Percent for Art funds to help support the facilitators, as well as the activities. We're working on a sculpture project for Mill Mountain, and we've been working with Parks and Recreation for that, and we expect to have some ideas on that soon. And it's fun. We're working with local artists, local fabricators, and exploring ideas. And this is supporting local businesses. This year we'll have 2 to 3 new murals. We did a call last year for the rebar project with rebar from the old Wasina Bridge, and we're going to see that coming up soon in place. And then the Wonder Pass project. We have been looking at that space in between downtown, along the innovation corridor between downtown and the Carilion Clinic, Virginia Tech investments. We would like to make that look a lot better. You see that when you come in off the Parkway. It's kind of a dark underpass. We're wondering if we can make that a wonder pass. So we're saving some money. We've applied to the NEA for some resources. It would end up being a big project. So we'll find out in November if we get the NEA grant. But if we do, we'll be working with our partners and seeing what kind of great project we can do. We had a light sculptor, Bill Fitzgibbons, come to the community and spoke to about 60 people and threw some ideas out there. And we kind of explored how we could make that feel like the center of the innovation corridor. So more on that, we hope, this year. Now, this is one of the projects placemaking was involved, very, very involved with. There's our past chair, William Penn. This is at the Eureka Park Recreation Center. S. Ross Brown Center at the top picture with Robin Mitchell, our artist in residence who grew up in the neighborhood. That's her park. She spent 4 years working alongside the architects, alongside the community, trying to figure out what colors people liked, what kind of imagery they wanted to see, and we're very, very happy with that project. We mentioned the Daisy Art Parade. That's Becky Carr on the left. She hand makes the prize for that. It's been named the Becky and Tom Carr Prize for community spirit in the Daisy Art Parade. And Becky, she's our treasurer. And there's a picture of that Daisy Art Parade. Kids they found themselves in the catalog. Their picture their picture was taken in the first catalog, and we were out at an event, and they were looking at the catalog. That's us. We just love how this is connecting us to the community. We see this work as a way to lessen the distance between government and people, and we think it's doing it. So just some images of some of those 90 activities around the community. And you've probably seen some of these if you've been out at block parties and such. Our planning committee, John Cornthwaite is chair of our planning committee. He's here today. He is doing an extraordinary amount of work. Our first plan was done in 2011 and Tom Carr was in the planning department then, and he really helped us with that. He did an extraordinary job. We did not outsource any of this. We didn't have any consultants, and that plan really helped us get where we are today. The Roanoke Cultural Endowment is there because of the work of that plan. In that same spirit, we didn't hire anybody to help us with the plan. We've got great expertise at the Arts Commission, and we're doing it ourselves. We've talked to more than 700 people, and I know that number keeps climbing because I saw today that we had 83 more people fill out the survey last week. So the survey's open through the end of the month. If you go to roanokearts.org/plan, you can tell us an individual idea of what you want to see happen in the community through the arts, or you can answer the full survey or a mini version of the survey. So if you just have that idea, go on and fill that out. roanokearts.org/plan. And I presented this to you before, but I want to give us this grounding language for the plan because we think it's really important. We envision a Roanoke where creativity builds bridges, culture lives in every neighborhood, and the arts help us shape a future we design together. Our values, we are bringing people together, making space for everyone, imagining what's possible, celebrating along the way, and nurturing what's next. Roanoke has always been this community that's becoming, and I think that's a good thing. We need to look back and honor our heritage, but we can create the community we want to be. And that's the way that we are focused on the arts and the community. So we're nurturing what's next, and that includes with our young people. Speaking of which, we put out 2 calls this week, and I had young people, teachers, respond wanting to get young people involved in both the mural project and our STARS activity. And so I, of course, said, yes, of course, whatever we can do to engage young people. So again, here's a QR code for the plan survey. I do want to say there's some early themes that are coming through the survey. So just like a heads up, we're seeing that people really want us to support local artists. They want free or low cost access to our to arts activities and a diverse array of activities. And then an emphasis on neighborhood centers. Now, like I said, we had 83 more people filling out the survey today. This might change, but this is what we were seeing in some of the early results of the survey. And our executive committee, it really focuses on those partnerships and how we do things. We have the Youth Poet Laureate planning that we're doing in partnership with the library and with Artemis Journal. And on September 4th, the National Poet Laureate will be in town, and we're going to do an activity with youth as part of that. The Art by Bus project, we've got it in September. September 30th, we will launch the new version of the chapbook with an artist who's just ridden the bus and written about it. Every month, we get together the executive directors of all the arts and cultural organizations so that we know that we have their input on a steady basis as well. That group created the It's Here strategy. We really believe that arts and culture are an attractor. We're out there at events, and people say, I moved here because of art, or I got here, and wait a minute, I couldn't believe when I came to visit how much you have for a community your size with arts and culture. So we think there's a lot of work we can do in taking that asset and doing even more with it. We send out a weekly newsletter every Monday, and we're also busy trying to write applications. We just submitted an application to the Community Foundation, and we're going to be looking at other larger private foundations this year. That was our Art by Bus celebration this past year. This was just fantastic. Joe Lee did it, and it celebrated our community, the community who rides the bus, the art in the community. He's just a terrific asset and did a terrific job with that. Some of our images, when we get out there and you see this It's Here tent, it's not just the city of Roanoke, it's all of the arts and cultural organizations together staffing that tent and sharing the word and spreading news about what's available in the community. So our budget this year, we are saving $70,000 in case we get that NEA grant so that we can start to match that grant. We applied for $100,000 and we'll see in November what we get. So we're keeping $70,000 out aside of that. In our collections line, we keep $50,000 for maintenance, just in case something happened and we had to repair, say, the really large sculpture in front of Berglund Center. So we're very conservative this way. And then compared to last year, we spent $243,000. We just finished, I just looked today on our NEA board, we have closed all 8 NEA grants that we got since 2018. That 8 NEA grants for one community is a really big deal, and I'm not sure they don't kind of fund the kind of work we're doing in neighborhoods now, but I think we'll get back to that at some point soon as well. And we're hoping that they'll fund the Wonderpass project. And with that, I'm sorry it was so much. This group works really hard. I feel like I'd do them a disservice if I didn't let you know what they're doing. So when you see them, and you'll see them wearing their badges out in the community, please thank them. Yeah. So, and I want to thank you for your support. And if there's any questions or any comments, I'm happy to take them.
Thank you so much, Mr. Jackson, and thanks to everyone for being here today. That was a great presentation, and I'll open it up for any questions or comments from council.
I just want to say thank you for this. It's wonderful. It's great, and I love seeing all the art everywhere. I'm looking forward to be able to spend some time doing some art. So what is your deadline for this STARS thing?
Oh, yeah. And you heard that. It's being recorded, too. You know, we have a deadline. We are going to start taking them in on September 11th. Right now, we have 14 different staff members who have applied for it, and I think they're all from different departments. It was a good span, which I'm really excited about. Now, we're going to have these up for a year. So we'll take whatever we get in there at the end of September, and then if we need a little more encouragement, and I imagine people apply at the last minute sometimes, if we need some more encouragement, we've got a year where we can do maybe some lunchtime workshops, teach people how to do some things, and hang more. So I think we're going to have a deadline, but the whole point is to celebrate each other, celebrate art, and connect. So we'll probably keep it even open a little bit longer.
I've already thrown my husband's stuff over into the garage, so I now have all downstairs from all of my crafting stuff.
Oh, excellent. So, excellent. Well, we can't wait to see.
11th.
And you can submit more than one.
We'll have at least one from council.
Yeah.
Mr. Bollison.
Yeah, first I want to thank you, Doug, for all the work that you do with the Arts Commission, and also thank you to the board members. I know it's always fun being on volunteer boards. This is one of the most sought-after ones in Roanoke, so feel lucky because it's such a great one to be on. I wanted to also thank you, Doug, because if I'm not mistaken, and somebody can correct me, but the Arts Connect Neighbors was part of the reason why we got the All-American City Award this year.
It was one of the three activities. Yeah, we're really, and we created that model here in Roanoke. We didn't see it somewhere else and do it, but it was we built it here, so it made us feel really good.
Yeah, you should be very proud of that, and everybody in Roanoke should be proud of that, and I would just want to say thank you for that. It's a really innovative idea, and it's a great thing for us to hang our hat on here in Roanoke. And then I also wanted to shout out, there's a mural unveiling happening at On the Edge. Was that August 20th or 21st?
Yes, it's this Thursday, August 20th. I want to say it's 5. I looked at it this morning. I should know this. 5:30. 5:30. Yeah.
5:30.
And this is a great example. We love property owners who care about the appearance of their property. It's contagious, by the way, and cleaning the property is one thing, making sure you have a great facade, if you have space for a mural. This was a terrific project. We were able to put some resources into it and help them. We have a partnership program so that, if a property owner wants to put a mural on it, they don't have to talk to the city at all if it's art. But if they want us, it's interesting, a lot of times they want to feel like what they're doing is contributing to the city. So they want to partner with us, and we can help put a few resources in. But the neighborhood association has to be involved and put resources in. The property owner does, and then we can partner with them and leverage that a little bit. Yeah.
That's great. I'm excited for the unveiling of that one. And I'll end on a note that I will be joining Ms. Powers in the star competition or collection. I'm sure we can go to Hobby Lobby or something together.
Excellent. One you'll see when you go to fill out the form, and there's an online form on that website, you'll see there are questions about how does Roanoke make you more creative? What do you love about Roanoke? What do you love about your involvement with the city? It's just a very positive thing, and we can't wait to. And that's one of my favorite things is writing the tags, reading those comments from people. Yeah.
I want you to know, every time I go to Hobby Lobby in Christiansburg, I say, when are we getting a Hobby Lobby in Roanoke? And guess what I was told?
Well,
maybe, fingers crossed, 2027, we may be getting.
Well, gotcha. In the meantime, there's Canvas and Coffee over on Grandin Road. There was some spots to get, and some surprise spots. And, the Scrap Collective. You can pick up art supplies that are used over at the Scrap Collective. I think we have 3 now in the Valley, 3 of these kinds of places where people, if you have extras from what you've purchased and you want to take them somewhere, they'll take those and sell them, and they do art classes. And that was something that was called for in our 2011 art plan. Finally, it's happened. This plan, is not what the city's going to do, it's what the community is going to do. And so
I hope my husband's not watching, because he'll start getting down there in my room saying, oh, no way we can get rid of this stuff.
He's going to be selling off your materials.
I might use that art stuff one day.
Yeah, so thank you, and I guess I'll be probably a third, maybe, about the STARS program, just depending on how my schedule works. But yeah, thank you all for everything you do, Doug. Like, seriously, I see you out and about everywhere, and at everything. And thank you to your board as well.
Well, we can't do it without your support, and for that, we thank you.
Yeah, I just want to say really quickly, I think you all are killing it. I'm just so pleased and proud of the work that you do, and I just want to thank you. And I took as you were giving your presentation, I took a bunch of notes I wanted to, comments I wanted to make, but now there are too many. One thing I just wanted to throw out there is that we hear sometimes, I think, I'll just say again, I think you are absolutely killing it, and anyone that goes around anywhere in the city can see the increase in public art. If you're at community events, I love the Arts Connect Neighbors. I've seen your artists out doing that at events all over the city. It's a really wonderful way to bring people together. But every now and then, I've had someone say to me, why are you spending all that money on murals? Someone, a grumbly type. because it's not a direct need. You know, art is not food. You know, it's not oxygen. However, I think that it is still very important to our sense of place, our community. And I think what I think about when I remind people of why do we invest in this, a couple of reasons. One, the placemaking and the connection to economic development. If you don't care about art, but you care about a prosperous, economically viable city, show me a prosperous city that doesn't have a thriving art scene. I don't know that they exist. And the other piece of that is the connection to mental health. And I think that that's an issue we deal a lot with in our city. And oftentimes people don't just, it takes a long time sometimes for people to kind of lose their way in life. And I think the more we can have a strong, connected community where we include people, we keep them, create opportunities for people to feel involved and appreciated, I got to think that makes a big difference. And I think there's some research that shows that it does too. So I just thank you all so much for what you're doing. And I would just remind everyone to please submit that survey. And I thought that was brilliant, the way you split that up into 3 different options. So if you only have 30 seconds, you can do that. If you have 5 minutes, there's the middle option. Or if you want to jump in and spend an evening, you can do that. So thank you all very much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you all. Thank you.
All right. Yes, thank you very much. We will now turn, our next presentation will be an update on the Williamson Road project. Ms. Turner, do you have any comments on that?
I do. Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. Public Works Director Ross Campbell will provide an update on Williamson Road, including current progress, ongoing work, and the next steps for this important corridor.
Good afternoon, Mr. Campbell.
Thank you, Vice Mayor, members of council. So I am pleased to present an update on Williamson Road and where we are with the project today. As you all may recall, I presented to you in May of 2025, so a little bit over a year ago, following some work done by the steering committee that is part of Envision Williamson Road, and we walked through kind of how we got to where we're at today with the demonstration project's been in play. And so anyway, I'll recap some of that, but I definitely want to lead off strong. And this is really everything you need to know. I'm 15 minutes of brief time, but this is one slide that will wrap it up in right out the top. And that is we've had nearly a 40% reduction in crash volume on Williamson Road since the demonstration went into play. All that while travel times remain relatively unchanged. The travel speed out there is consistent with the posted speed limit of 30 miles an hour, and there has been no meaningful diversion. So some of the concerns that we heard early on was traffic volume would be down on Williamson Road, impacting business outcomes. That has not happened. There is also concern that there would be cut-through traffic in neighborhoods, and that has not happened. So anyway, that is the lead-in and the brief in one slide. But let's get into some of the history and the recap. So just as a reset, in 2024, the city received a technical assistance grant from USDOT through Thriving Communities. And that was resulted in some help in our community outreach and specifically around this project. And the staff, along with the Technical Assistance Committee, has been really actively involved in community outreach. We've had multiple occasions to brief and present at neighborhood meetings. We've done walks. We've specifically engaged businesses in door-to-door engagement. We've gone to community events, Williamson Road Library, National Night Outs, and then we've done a variety of different surveys. Additionally, I mentioned the steering committee that was made up of 19 different stakeholder groups who met at 7 different times throughout this process over the last 2 years. Meeting time they selected at 10 a.m. That was most convenient for them, but it was made up of business groups, neighborhood groups, schools, technical professionals, some VDOT and Regional Commission, and then a variety of advocacy groups. Just to name a few, we had Blue Ridge Literacy, we had BRAG, PedSafe, the Virginia Department for the Blind, and then we had libraries out there. So we had a vast representation of the community on the stakeholder group. that were representing interest. And we walked through our three-step process whereby we worked to create a vision together, reviewed choices that would align or support that vision, and then selected options. And so, again, this was all just what we talked about in May. But the vision that they created, this is the steering committee's vision, really was this notion of Williamson Road is about a place. It's not a project. It's not a street, but is a place that is a vibrant multinational business and residential community that creates and connects and supports sustainable, safe, and accessible destinations. And then any projects that happened out there on Williamson Road were really to support that vision, to support that placemaking. So why is that so important? Well, in a 4-year period between 2019 and 2023, we had nearly 50 people die in traffic crashes in the city of Roanoke. 18 of those were killed while walking. Now, the metrics for Williamson Road are not great. Nearly 1 in 5 of those happened on Williamson Road. And of the pedestrians that were struck and killed, nearly 1 in 3 of those happened on Williamson Road. And that puts Williamson Road, again, some of the statistics on that, is a little bit loose, but as we talked with VDOT and some of their professionals, that puts that in the top 1 to 5% of most dangerous roads in the Commonwealth of Virginia by traffic volume. And so, that doesn't necessarily support and align with where we're going as a city. We have the Vision Zero program. And again, thank you to council and your support for the safety action plan here in May that was approved. And again, the goal is that by 2040, we're at a point of 0 traffic fatalities on the city streets of Roanoke. So as we presented to the steering committee, this vision, where we're at with traffic fatalities, and then some potential countermeasures. These are straight lifted off the USDOT website as far as potential countermeasures. Not all of these would necessarily apply to Williamson Road, but every one was talked about and evaluated as far as potential solutions to be considered, whether it be high visibility crosswalks, leading pedestrian intervals, variable speed limit signs, walkways, bike lanes, et cetera, et cetera. In addition to that, the steering committee came up with 6 points that they wanted to see as additional considerations: education, enforcement, a facade grant program. I'm pleased to announce that the USDOT facade grant that was initially funded, the Williamson Road Business Association, Greater Williamson Road Business Association, is looking for additional resources to continue that program to help business owners out there improve and maintain their storefronts. Landscaping, parking, public parking, and the streetlights were 6 that were named. And so during the process, we reviewed the options, again, reflecting back on the vision that we had out there. And the steering committee came up with 2 main options, really 4, if you break them down, to look at. And the first one was basically, take the existing layout, which at the time was 4 lanes, 2 in each direction, no center turn lane, and formalize or improve crosswalks. And then a secondary to that was limited crosswalks and cross ramps, but installation of a side path and simplified access. As you recall in May when we talked about that impacted nearly 100 parcels or properties and 60 buildings just because of the limited right-of-way along Williamson Road. And then the second set reflected a lane reconfiguration that included a center turn lane. First option being just the center turn lane, and then the second center turn lane with some crosswalk, curb ramps, and continuous sidewalks and simplified access paths throughout there. And we really evaluated that through 6 points. And the recommendation was a pilot around that first option, which was a center turn lane, with the idea of looking at future improvements along the way. And so that's really what has been in demonstration since October of 2025, and what led to the statistics that I shared earlier. So we asked the steering committee what success looked like to them, and this is what they came up with: increased pedestrian use, low-cost improvements to safety, Data on reduction in speeds of crashes and serious injuries, less crashes and injuries in the corridor, increased motorist comfort and safety when turning left, traffic flows, pedestrian and bike use space, businesses see more interest, smooth traffic and overall positive community feedback, and no major restrictions to traffic flow at peak hours, less traffic accidents, and less pedestrian incidents. And so these were direct feedback from the steering committee, and in their terms and not staff's technical terms for them. So you'll see the term accident rather than crash. Crash is really that, it's this notion that it is entirely preventable rather than an accident. And so in the sixth meeting, as I'm just kind of recapping that, we looked at some of the qualitative and anecdotal data that was coming back in. We didn't have the complete picture on the VDOT crash data at that meeting in May, but what we had done is we had again walked the corridor, talked to business owners, we talked with different users, and got out and heard from them. And so this is some of the data on the engagement that we had with businesses on the door-to-door walks. And really what we heard was four main points. We heard that the transitions, both at the south end at Orange Avenue and on the north end, heading southward, were awkward. And in the final product, we've got some design to the pavement markings that will improve those merges and make them a lot more clear. We heard feedback early on about synchronization of traffic flows, and one of the neat things about the demonstration and the traffic pattern that we have out there is because traffic is a lot more predictable, we're able to bring vehicles together in platoons and get them to move through the corridor in predictable movements, which has allowed us to coordinate the traffic signals. So if you hit a green light on one end of Williamson Road, you can travel almost the entire corridor on green at the posted speed limit. There was also some feedback that center turn lane in the demonstration was too narrow, and so in the final product, we've figured out a way to add an additional foot without impacting right away. And then some concerns about the bus stop placement. In many locations, they were placed prior to the stoplight, so you might have a bus that's pulled over to let off a passenger or on board a passenger, and that traffic signal's green, which is holding up progress of traffic through the signal. We've been able to work with Valley Metro, and they are in progress of moving the stops or the bus stops following the stoplights. Some are done, others are in progress. And then here in June, we were able to have WRA, who is the traffic engineer firm the city contracted with, to do the before and after measurements on Williamson Road and the adjacent neighborhoods. Present with a collection of their own data and the crash data from VDOT, and that is where this particular slide came from, that 40%, nearly 40% reduction in crash volume without impacting travel speeds, keeping speed limits, or the speeds at the speed limit, and having no meaningful diversion. And so following that, we brought those stakeholder groups together. We used a Mentimeter poll, and we said, hey, you know, does this look like your measure of success? Is this what you had envisioned when you set forth the vision and what those measurements of success were for the demonstration project? And as you can see, the results were quite powerful. Of the 19, 15 were present, and we saw that there was an overwhelming support for keeping the configuration the way it was out there in the demonstration project. We also asked them, because the 6 additional things that they highlighted in addition to what was demonstrated, we asked them to rank them and what should the city work on next, and they were able to rank them in the following order. More sidewalks out there, pedestrian infrastructure was high on the list, and I'll talk about some things that are in the pipeline to address that, as well as street lights, law enforcement, facade grants ranked up there pretty high, all the way down to public parking. And again, that's these are things that would be multi-phase, multi-step as we are able to find money. Love to bring other people's money into the equation, so outside money into the city to do that. So anyway, how do we do that, and what are our next steps? So I'm standing here today, we've got the paving of Williamson Road on the city's paving contract that is funded with maintenance dollars that are provided by VDOT annually to the city, so outside money coming into the city to pave the road. Instead of using paint markings, which we did for the demonstration project, they faded with time. We'll use thermoplastics, and so they'll have a lot longer life out there. They'll be a lot more visible. We'll continue with our in-house teams on the coordination of traffic signals, particularly at Liberty Road. That one, again, is a major cross intersection and one that we will continue to find time adjust. And then we'll extend our transitions at the entrance to Williamson Road on Orange, and then the transition there head southbound. Some additional resources that we've been able to bring in is that VDOT has been generous with their Highway Safety Improvement Program, HSIP, and we were able to just complete some crosswalk upgrades on Williamson and Hirschberger, funded by VDOT. That was done here in July. We've got a State of Good Repair grant that will actually allow us to extend street paving north of Hirschberger as part of the paving within the demonstration area, and so that will be done this summer as well. We've got some money that's in progress to install a missing section of sidewalk between Woodbury and Hawthorne. That's transportation alternatives money. That's actually north of Hirschberger. We're working with AEP to increase some street lighting from Thurston to Wayne. So right now, our street lighting, just in general across the city, is below the standard, and so we're working with AEP to bring it up on this section, and then look at cost and how we might do this and expand that or have that replication throughout the city. And as I briefed last month, we've applied through Smart Scale Round 7 for some significant upgrades to Liberty and Williamson in that intersection. And then we just got funded, and we've got designed another highway safety improvement program to have some pedestrian upgrades and signalization upgrades at those 5 intersections listed there. And so anyway, lots of good things happening on Williamson Road, but I don't know as an engineer that I've ever seen something just so profound as a nearly 40% reduction just like that. I mean, that's a pretty telling statistic right there off the top. And so happy to stop here, take any questions you all might have about what happened out there on Williamson Road. And again, we're standing by, ready to start paving here in the next few weeks out there on Williamson.
Wonderful. Thank you, Mr. Campbell. Any questions or comments from Council, Mr. Volleson?
Thank you for the presentation, Mr. Campbell. This is always very exciting when you get to do an experiment and see the results and that they actually worked. 40% reduction is pretty amazing. So I'm glad to hear your results that you talked about. A couple of things that I wanted to throw out there as we look at the future of Williamson Road. Is there a way to talk with AEP about, I know we can't underground the power lines because it's cost prohibitive. Is there a way for us to start where we have power lines on one side and not on both? Or something like that, so that we can reduce the number of poles we have that allows for more pedestrian space? Because I think that's the biggest thing we're missing on Williamson after this is the actual sidewalks and pedestrian areas for people to walk.
That's absolutely a conversation. I know the city attorney and I have talked about that as part of some of the greater utility board discussions that are going on. And infrastructure, just in general, with electrical utilities is tough because once it's built out, changing that structure can be very expensive. The estimates for that are in the multi-million-dollar range per mile. So, but you don't get there without starting the conversation, and we certainly have. It's certainly going to take some outside resources to do that. But as we continue to have that conversation, we'll look for ways to do that. And certainly, Williamson Road is among many of the corridors where we have just very limited pedestrian space. We have the power poles right there at the edge of pavement, which again was reflective of some of the crash volume that we had before the demonstration project. You had vehicles traveling in that far right-hand lane that were literally inches off of those power poles, and so a lot of side strikes to those power poles, which had some secondary consequences as far as power being out that impacted residents and businesses along the corridor as well.
The other thing I wanted to, I know that there's a lot of curb cuts in that part in Williamson because of the way that everything was built at that time where you drove in. I know we've gotten some, I saw that you said we've got funding for some of the sidewalks. Is there a more comprehensive plan of what that'll look like?
So as far as like a corridor-wide plan that's got a design drawn out, no, but there is a corridor-wide goal, and that is exactly it. It is to look at segments that are fundable and how quick can we move on that. We're just going to have to build this out piece by piece along the way. And it's going to be staff that is looking at this and bringing out sort of resources. It's going to be development. So as we look at things like the Dollar General that was built out there on Williamson Road here recently, you see that meets the new safety, this new city standard as far as design. We are talking about Fire Station number 2 that will be built out on Williamson Road. So it's going to be all elements and all efforts along the way, and it's going to be a multi-phase, multi-step process to get there.
Awesome. And I would be remiss if I did not bring up the idea that Raba brought to us, which is an actual pedestrian bridge over Williamson Road there at the Berglund Center. I know that we looked at that back in the day when there was the whole Victory Stadium discussion and there was a possible amphitheater on the other side to connect the two facilities. I think it'd be interesting to see how we could maybe increase that pedestrian connectivity at that intersection. Thank you.
Awesome. Mr. Hagan.
Mr. Campbell, have we seen any increase in Fire-EMS turnaround times as a result of the test?
I can't directly speak to that, but I did see Chief Hoback sitting behind me.
Okay. That's been one.
Come on up, Chief Hoback.
No, we have not seen any changes in our fire and EMS responses. The community has reacted like we anticipated. They've been moving over, and we're using the center lane, and our travel time has not been impacted.
Okay. That was really my only question. So.
Question, Mr. Hagan.
When looking at the deaths associated, have there been any deaths during on Williamson Road? And I guess you all looked at the entirety of it from Orange to Airport. So I don't know if the question should be in the demonstration area for the diet or for the reconfiguration, or if Orange to Airport is still the comparable for my question. But have there been any deaths on Williamson Road since putting this into place? And if so, how many in, not just during the time of the demonstration, but since we've initially collected the 2019 to 2023 data?
So we specifically looked at that data set because that was what we used to apply for the Thriving Communities grant, and that's been kind of the impetus for a lot of the initiatives out there. Unfortunately, there have been fatalities out there on Williamson Road since that data set was collected, and there was one within the first couple of weeks of the demonstration that was pedestrian that was crossing mid-block early in the morning, and was unfortunately struck and killed.
All right, thank you. That was my only question.
Thank you, Mr. Nash. Ms. Sanchez-Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Campbell. Are you aware of any traffic increase in the neighborhoods and the side streets? Do you know if they're speeding, or have you had any reports on that?
So that was one of the data sets that we specifically collected. We collected traffic volumes in the neighborhood. So we used WRA before the study or before the demonstration and during the demonstration to collect traffic volumes through the neighborhood to see if we did have diversions that were happening through the neighborhoods, and there were no meaningful diversion that was happening either prior to or following the demonstration. So the traffic volumes remained relatively unchanged through the neighborhoods.
Have we added any new stop signs along those neighborhoods?
In the neighborhoods, no new stop signs in those neighborhoods.
Okay. Thank you.
Have we seen an increase in time on Williamson for individual cars, i.e. traffic?
So early on,
I may have missed that, and I apologize.
Let me just pull this slide back up here.
Thank you.
So that was a concern, was that there would be some increased travel time on that. PM northbound, so we're looking at PM peak. That actually happens to be the busiest time.
Yeah.
So PM peak, the northbound, there was a 19-second increase in travel time. In the southbound, however, there was a 23-second reduction. So overall, relatively unchanged.
What's is there a reason why we're seeing a less decrease in time in southbound? Is it just
because we were able to coordinate the traffic signals, because you have those predictable groups that I was talking about, and we'll often get asked the question, well, why didn't you coordinate the signals beforehand if it had such an impact? Because there was no center turn lane. and you had the unpredictable movement of vehicles getting around other vehicles, it was really hard to group the traffic patterns into something that was predictable that would allow a coordinated traffic flow. So this really allowed us to optimize the traffic signals throughout that corridor.
Sorry, Mr. Volleson.
I just have a follow-up question about, I'm glad to hear about cut-through traffic, but I have heard from a couple of folks that live in the Round Hill neighborhood that they have either someone they know or have seen a car get smashed by, vehicles speeding through that area. Now that they can't speed down Williamson, they're finding an alternative way to do that. So I'm just wondering if there's a way to continue to keep an eye on that and actually to look at speeding itself and not necessarily an increase in the number of people, but the increase in trying to find a faster way, which is unfortunately what humans try to do.
Right. Absolutely. We'll certainly keep an eye on it as we do the entire city. Traffic calming across the city and those concerns are definitely an item that we hear, not just about Round Hill, but most neighborhoods in the city. And we're always looking at ways to provide a safe systems approach to people moving about, whether that is in a vehicle or on an alternate means of transportation, such as a bike or walking.
I have a question. What tools or methods were used to collect some of this data, like for the number of crashes? Was that based off police reports? And then was other information like observed information, or were you using like technologies to clock the time differences?
So as far as crash data does absolutely, it starts with a report to police, and then that is amalgamated through a system run by Virginia State Police and ultimately VDOT. As far as measurement of traffic counts and traffic speeds, that was really where WRA came in. They used a variety of methods to count. That was pneumatic counters as well as digital counters, and then it was absolutely just seats and butts, or butts and seats driving up and down the corridor and moving through and clocking times. And so there was a fair amount of staff time put in by WRA to collect that data. It was just not one run, but multiples upon multiples of runs.
Thank you.
I just want to quickly say, Mr. Campbell, thank you for the presentation, and thank you and Ms. Turner for bringing forward to us the safety action plan. I am glad to hear that the steering committee supported the continuing the center turn lane option. I support that. I go up and down Williamson Road all the time. I have found it to improve the driving experience. But I do just want to echo two things Mr. Volleson said. I definitely would love to see us continue the conversation on burying some of that infrastructure where possible. I know it's really expensive, but also connects in a way to our resiliency in the future as we have more extreme weather. I wanted to also say smoothing out, I think those transition areas, that's one of the things I hear a lot about is just like as you come off of Orange Avenue, I think it's a little confusing, but that's just because the paint has faded. So I think that once that is updated, it'll make a big difference. And my top priority is the safety for the people in that neighborhood and the businesses and the people that are living and working there. And I think this is going to make a big difference. So I really appreciate your work on it.
Thank you, Vice Mayor.
Yes, sir. Thank you. All right. Next up, Ms. Turner, we are going to get an update, I believe, on the performance dashboard metrics.
Thank you so much, Mayor. Today, you'll be receiving a briefing on the City of Roanoke Performance Dashboard, which is an important tool for helping us better understand how the city is performing and how we are progressing towards our strategic priorities. The dashboard brings together data and performance measures from across the organization to support informed decision-making, transparency, accountability, and continuous improvement. It also provides council and our community with a clear way to track progress and understand the outcomes of the services we provide. I am pleased to introduce the team who will be presenting today's briefing: Assistant to City Manager Angela Vernon, IT Manager Jared Anthony, and GIS Application Project Lead Olivia Eaton. They will walk us through the proposed strategic priorities, the performance metrics used to measure progress, and the city's performance dashboard, including how the information can help guide our work moving forward. With that, I'll turn it over to Angela, Jared, and Olivia.
Thank you, Ms. Turner. Good afternoon,
Afternoon.
to Vice Mayor McGuire and members of City Council. Thank you for this opportunity to provide you with an update on the performance dashboard. Just would like to provide you with an overview regarding where we are, kind of recap what happened earlier this year with the adoption of the strategic priorities, the purpose in tracking our metrics, and also be able to share highlights of what the performance dashboard actually looks like and entertain any questions that you may have. You may recall that we did quite an extensive amount of work on last year by council. You spent a tremendous amount of time reviewing our strategic priorities and ensuring that we're aligning our services with our strategic priorities, ensuring that we're tracking that progress so we can demonstrate to the community as well as internally how we're progressing, and just allowing for some transparency and accountability for the work that we're performing in hopes to also drive some performance improvement. We were able to narrow down our strategic priorities. You may recall we had 7 priorities that we've had for quite a few years, and we were able to narrow that down. And you adopted, if you will, in March, 5 strategic priorities: civic stewardship and infrastructure, community and economic vitality, community safety, education, healthy and sustainable communities. Also, during your discussions at the council retreat on last year, we were able to further define each of those priorities and what those priorities stand for. Starting with civic stewardship and infrastructure, really around how do we strengthen our civic engagement, how do we better maintain our infrastructure within the organization and within the community. We also looked at community safety, ensuring again that we're promoting transparency in our community relations, building that trust within our community. We also looked at community and economic vitality, ensuring that we're taking more diverse actions, attracting more businesses, retaining those businesses that we do have. And certainly education continued to remain a priority for council, ensuring that we're cultivating an environment within our community, but also within our school system of providing strong education, certainly starting with early childhood education for our young people. And lastly, healthy and sustainable communities, really ensuring that we're focusing on the quality of life, housing that we have available, as well as preserving and protecting what we do have within our community. You may recall this working document referred to as our implementation matrix, and this was a model that our city manager had brought to us that we were able to model after Loudoun County that worked really well with us. Our leadership spent a tremendous amount of time as well last year in retreats having discussion about what activities could we identify and develop to further support the strategic priorities that you had laid out for us to adhere to. And so with that, there were quite a few discussions that we had. Those individuals, our city leaders, identify what those activities were going to be, who was going to champion those activities, and what type of support did they need to follow through on those activities. Again, this is a working document. From this document, what our city leadership has done is provide us with metrics, metrics that they could track, metrics ideally that we could pull from systems to be able to ensure that we can easily pull data so that we're ensuring that we can have as much real-time data as possible. And so I know it was a little bit of a challenge for our city leadership because there's a lot of work being performed, but we actually asked them to identify those 5 top metrics that we could demonstrate to the community. So externally, 5 metrics, and then internally, 5 metrics that we could also demonstrate internally to each other. Again, just ensuring that we're collaborating, we're working across departments. And so that's part of a phase 2, if you will, in terms of an internal dashboard. So our performance metrics, just to share with you, why is this important? One, we want to ensure that we're tracking our progress, that we're meeting the goals that council has outlined for us, that we're measuring the type of service that we provide, and just really driving accountability across the organization. Metrics in local government, again, you may recall quite a bit of conversation that council had at last year's retreat wanting to ensure that we're being transparent and we're being accountable as an organization. One item as well that Ms. Turner's always emphasizing, ensuring that we're allowing you to be able to make informed decision-making. And in order to do that, you need data, you need information, you need to know how we're progressing as an organization. Certainly continuous improvement. We're continuously evolving, want to improve in the service delivery that we have, and improving as an organization. And then also with regards to community trust and engagement. And so this is the exciting part for me, because we're really excited to share with you just a brief look, if you will, at the actual dashboard. So at this time, I'll call up my colleague, Jared Anthony, our IT manager, and he'll give you a preview.
Thank you, Angela. Good afternoon, Vice Mayor, members of council. So for dashboards, I think by now we've got a pretty good idea what dashboards are and how effective they are. They're great at being interactive, accessible for citizens, really gives you a good snapshot of the data. I was just thinking of Mr. Campbell's presentation where he showed quickly was able to show really the highlights of that study and how powerful that was. Just a reminder that several other localities in Virginia have already started using performance dashboards, Williamsburg, Alexandria, Fairfax, and others, as well as some other cities outside of Virginia like Tempe, Arizona. They're very generous and helped us with some guidance on ours, as well as Arlington, Texas, which we actually use the same template as they do. So let's talk about some of the tools and data sources that we use to get our data from. We have various city systems. You can thank us from our public safety systems with our 911 calls, police calls. We also have state data. You'll see some social services data from that. We also have federal data from federal government, the census, school board data. You'll see a lot of those actually in the real demo here. So now I will switch it over to the live demo, and I will say, as someone who's a software professional in IT, going over to a live demo is always a little bit scary for me. Like the universe is governed by several laws. You think of thermodynamics. There's also a lesser-known law of software demo, where just because it worked on your desk a few minutes ago does not mean it will work at the presentation. But we're going to be hopeful today. So you guys have seen in the previous presentation that we did back in March an overview of this site, but we've made some adjustments to it, some improvements. I really want to thank community engagement. They're really big with some of their ideas. So we have the homepage. We have the metrics at the top that Angela was mentioning. And for each of these metrics, like I said, I'll go through here in a second. We have various different details, history. For example, the gross domestic product. This is one from the federal government that we get. As we're talking about the frequency of updates for metrics, you have some data that we could basically pretty real time, whereas other data is more an annual. Some data from the federal government can be a few years, especially when you're talking about census data. We have civic stewardship and infrastructure. We broke those up in different categories. And this will allow us also to easily add additional metrics as time goes on and not just clutter up one page. I will say that just a reminder, the council already has access to this. If you, for some reason, have problems accessing, just let me know and we'll get that taken care of. And in terms of when is the public going to access this, we are still receiving the last little bits of data updates and working on community engagement for a rollout plan, and that will be happening next week is when the go live will be. And for future steps, like I said, as city leadership deems acceptable, we will add additional metrics. I know there's a lot of good data out there that some of my colleagues have. And we'll also work on automating a lot of our data. So for right now, a lot of our data is on an annual basis, but several of those data sets we can actually automate, so we can do it a lot more frequently than that and automatically, because we want to make sure the citizens always have the most latest up-to-date information on the site. And speaking of the citizens, we've also implemented a survey that they can go to that will allow them to share the feedback about which strategic outcomes are most important to them, how satisfied you are with how the city is doing. So this will really allow us to really get a good feedback from the citizens and what else they would like to see. So.
Oh, no.
Question for you.
Yes.
Is 1,000 characters enough in those free texts for folks?
That's a good question. It might not be, but we'll expand, if anyone mentions that, we'll expand it out there. So thank you. Any additional questions?
Thank you very much. Oh my gosh, Ms. Powers. Let's call you Ms. Sanchez-Jones.
So, and I've gone out there and looked at that, and then I go to the Weldon Cooper Center a lot to look at data.
Yes.
Is there any way we could ever post a link to the Weldon Cooper Center? Because, you know, they have tons of information out there, from the census on every locality to education stuff on every
Yes.
locality. So that might be something in the future that you might want to add.
Yeah, so thank you, Councilmember Powers. Yeah, exactly. We can do that there. That's an excellent idea. I appreciate that. I'll make a note of it.
But it is good. I do like it. You've got a lot of stuff out there.
Thank you.
Mr. Volleson.
So I'm like super excited. We're finally going live with this thing next week. I'm really, I want to thank you all for the time and effort that it took to put in to get to where we are today. I don't think a lot of people understand the back work that, it seems like just a number over here, but you have to go find those things. You have to see what you have, and connecting it all can be a challenge as well. So I really want to thank you and the IT staff for creating this. And, I'm excited because I know that this is just the beginning, right? Once you have that base infrastructure in place, you can start to add in new metrics, new data sources, and those types of things. So I'm really, really proud of the work that y'all have done. And I'm really excited for the city because this allows us to now make those data-driven decisions so that we can see what's actually happening in our city and make informed decisions about what our future can look like. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you for all your support. And it's really like citywide effort, like Olivia's our GS leader. She's the one who really architected all of this. And then you have people like Matt, Mr. Campbell, Chief Hoback to provide me some of this data. So it's really a citywide effort, so I appreciate it.
Ash.
Thank you. Question for me is, what's the frequency that this information will be updated? And is it basically set up to where when the sources is pulling the data from refreshes, it automatically pulls that information and updates it as well? I'm just curious how much manual, how manual is that process? Just to ensure that it continues on. We have a lot of links on our website where you click on them and it takes you to a page that's not active or it's out of date. So I want to make sure that months ahead, maybe years ahead, that doesn't happen to this.
Sure, yeah, thank you, Councilmember Nash. You're exactly right. That's an excellent question that got brought up in some of our planning. So you're right. So right now, most of the data we saw on the dashboard is an annual basis, and as of this moment, it's manual. But we know exactly to your point that it's very critical that we maintain this up to date. As you go through various different other sites or localities, you'll see sometimes, oh, this looks like they got out-of-date data. We don't want that to happen to us. So basically, for phase 2, really, one of our big objectives is anywhere we can automate that. So as you point out, when the system gets updated information, source of rest, system of record, then we can pull that automatically to the dashboard. That is going to be one of our big objectives in phase 2.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Any other comments on your side or to close it out, Ms. Vernon?
Absolutely. Thank you, Vice Mayor McGuire. Certainly, I just want to publicly thank Jared, Anthony, and certainly Olivia. I told her I was going to call her out, so she could please stand. I just would like to recognize her, and I appreciate the recognition. This team makes it look easy, and I know it's not easy, so I think one of the Councilmember Vlasen kind of confirm that. It is a lot of behind-the-scenes work that the team has done, a lot of time that's been invested, and certainly I want to appreciate Vanessa is the Chief Information Officer, her leadership, and allowing the team to work so closely with me. Then also, I would just share with you, we will have a team member that will have oversight for this as well. You'll hear a little bit more about that new team member from Ms. Turner and her remarks. But we're excited about the opportunity. I know we're also excited when we get further down the road to have an internal dashboard as well, so that we can share information amongst one another internally. So just thank you again for the opportunity.
We were very excited. What was that? Is there a date set for when it goes live, or?
Tentatively next week. We
Sometime next
need
week?
to allow some time for community engagement
Okay.
to review it. And then we're also having some internal discussions regarding a tagline. So you'll see a little bit more about that coming. So we need to do some voting on what that may end up resulting in. So sometime next week. So we just want to be fluid about that if we can.
Stay tuned.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. All right. That, I think, brings us to our items recommended for action, and today we have 7. The first is acceptance and appropriation of the FY 2025 HUD Continuum of Care Grant Award Homeless Assistance Team. We have one measure and ordinance for adoption, and we need a motion and a second.
The ordinance.
Thank you, Mr. Hagan and Mr. Volleson. And I will ask the city clerk to please read the title paragraph.
An ordinance authorizing acceptance of the FY 2025 HUD Continuum of Care Grant Award to the City of Roanoke on behalf of the Department of Social Services Homeless Assistance Team from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development in the amount of $160,370 upon certain terms and conditions, authorizing execution of any required documentation on behalf of the city, appropriating grant funds detailed more fully infra, and dispensing with the second reading of this ordinance by title.
Thank you very much. Ms. Turner, did you have some comments?
I do. Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. This particular item, as well as the next two, deal specifically with the FY 2025 HUD Continuum of Care Grant Award. This item is for the HAT team, and it will provide funding for continued street outreach to individuals experiencing unsheltered homelessness, including case management, referrals, transportation assistance, and help obtaining identification. And Mr. Cruikshank is here, should you have any questions on the next 3 items.
Ms. Turner, thank you for being here, Mr. Cruikshank. Any questions or comments? Okay, well, I will ask the city clerk to please call the roll.
Mr. Nash?
Aye.
Mr. Volleson?
Aye.
Ms. Powers?
Aye.
Mr. Hagan? Ms. Sanchez Jones? And Vice Mayor McGuire.
Aye, and the ordinance passes. Thank you all. Next up, we have the acceptance and appropriation of the FY 2025 HUD Continuum of Care Grant Award for Coordinated Assessment Systems. We have one measure for adoption and ordinance, and we need a motion and a second.
I move the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Nash and Ms. Powers. And I will ask the city clerk to please read the title paragraph.
An ordinance authorizing acceptance of the FY 2025 U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development HUD Continuum of Care Coordinated Assessment System Grant Award to the City of Roanoke in the amount of $56,180 upon certain terms and conditions, authorizing the city manager to execute any necessary documents necessary to accept such grant, appropriating grant funds detailed more fully infra, and dispensing with the second reading of this ordinance by title.
Ms. Turner?
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. This particular allocation helps fund our centralized intake and referral process. It helps individuals and families at risk of experiencing homelessness quickly connect with appropriate housing and supportive resources. It allows us to create the no wrong door approach, making it easier for residents to access available resources.
Turner, and I also see Ms. Coleman here. Thank you for being with us. Any questions or discussion? Okay, I'll ask the city clerk to please call the roll.
Mr. Nash?
Aye.
Mr. Volleson?
Aye.
Ms. Powers? Mr. Hagan?
Aye.
Ms. Sanchez Jones? And Vice Mayor McGuire.
Aye, and the ordinance passes. Thank you. Next up, we have acceptance and appropriation of the FY 2025 HUD Continuum of Care Grant Award for Continuum of Care Planning. We have one measure for adoption and ordinance, and we need, please, a motion and a second.
Move the ordinance.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Hagan and Mr. Volleson, and I will ask the city clerk to please read the title paragraph.
An ordinance accepting the FY 2025 Continuum of Care Planning Grant from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development to the City of Roanoke in the amount of $133,237, authorizing the city to serve as the fiscal agent for the distribution of such funds, authorizing the city manager or designee to execute any required documents necessary to accept such funds, appropriating FY 2025 grant funds detailed more fully infra, and dispensing with the second reading of this ordinance by title.
Boy, Ms. Turner?
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. This particular grant allocation provides planning and coordination support for the Blue Ridge Continuum of Care. The city does serve as the lead agency for the Continuum of Care, and it includes program planning, data collection, strategic planning, and federally required point-in-time count.
Very much. Is there any discussion or questions from council? All right, Ms. McCoy, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Nash?
Aye.
Mr. Volleson?
Aye.
Ms. Powers?
Aye.
Mr. Hagan?
Aye.
Ms. Sanchez Jones? And Vice Mayor McGuire.
Aye, and the ordinance passes. Thank you. Next up, we have acceptance and appropriation of Virginia Department of Fire Programs Conference and Education Assistance Grant. We have one measure for adoption, an ordinance, and can I please have a motion and a second?
Move the ordinance.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Hagan and Mr. Volleson. Ms. McCoy, would you please read the title paragraph?
An ordinance accepting grant funds through the 2027 Conference and Education Assistance Program made to the City of Roanoke by the Virginia Department of Fire Programs, authorizing execution of any required documents on behalf of the city, appropriating grant funds detailed more fully infra, and dispensing with the second reading of this ordinance by title.
Ms. McCoy, Ms. Turner?
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. This grant is for $8,000, and the funding will help provide professional development and educational opportunities for our fire and emergency response personnel with no local match required.
Thank you very much, and I see Chief Hoback here if anyone has questions. Anything from council? All right, well, we're grateful for the funds, and Madam City Clerk, we're ready to call the roll.
Mr. Nash?
Aye.
Mr. Volleson?
Aye.
Ms. Powers?
Aye.
Mr. Hagan?
Aye.
Ms. Sanchez Jones? And Vice Mayor McGuire.
Aye, and the ordinance passes. Thank you. Next up, we have acceptance and appropriation of the BRIGHT, which is the Beautify Roanoke Interchanges Through Enhancement sponsorship funding from Lamar Outdoor Advertising. We have one measure for adoption and ordinance, and we need a motion and a second, please.
Move the ordinance.
Thank you, Mr. Hagan and Ms. Sanchez Jones. And I'll ask the city clerk to please read the title paragraph.
An ordinance accepting a donation of funds from Lamar Outdoor Advertising to the City of Roanoke as part of the Beautify Roanoke Interchanges Through Enhancement Program to assist with the maintenance of the landscaping at the I-581 interchange with Orange Avenue, authorizing the city manager or designee to execute any necessary documents, provide any additional information, and to take any necessary actions in order to obtain, accept, receive, implement, use, and administer such donation, expressing the city's appreciation for such donation, appropriating funds detailed more fully infra, and dispensing with the second reading of this ordinance by title.
Boy, Ms. Turner?
Vice Mayor McGuire, I don't have any comments on this, but should you have any questions, Director Ross Campbell is here to answer any.
Thank you very much. Any questions or comments from council? Yes, sir, Mr. Hagan.
You've sent a thank you to Lamar Outdoor Advertising, right? To thank them for their donation?
We certainly will once you approve it.
Yeah, awesome. Just want to make sure.
I had a couple quick questions, if I could ask Mr. Campbell. Sorry to make you come back up, but I really appreciate this, and my thanks to Lamar as well. I had two questions. That piece of property, who owns that? I looked on GIS and I couldn't.
That is actually part of the VDOT right-of-way, and as you can see in the narrative for this, this is an extension of the broader VDOT program that was initiated more than 20 years ago to allow not only the Commonwealth but also localities to collect donations from private entities, either through cash, as in the case with Lamar Outdoor Advertising, or in terms of direct service by the group organization themselves, to do beautification work in certain areas in exchange for signage in the public right-of-way.
I think it's a great program. My question, my second question was, do you think it would be possible for us to have a conversation or think about how we could encourage planting and incorporation of our Bee City USA commitments, and how we can start working on potentially putting in some more environmentally friendly plantings that might kind of mesh with some of our other sustainability goals, and also maybe save money by requiring less maintenance?
Absolutely. And, again, this is money that is donated by Lamar, and there are a few other entities that have done and will continue to do this. But it is staff effort or contracted effort that goes into putting these plantings in place. And so, as far as materials that are chosen and maintenance that goes along with that, that is staff that is doing that. And, we're all for providing materials that not only reflect support for our pollinators, but also are easier to maintain than high energy ones.
That's great to hear. Thank you. And the last thing I'll say is just to call my dad out. He worked for Lamar briefly, and he worked for the railroad and then went to work for Lamar. And I think it lasted like 3 months because he's scared of heights. And so did not work out. So then he went to work for the Franklin County Sheriff's Department. So thank you to Lamar. Thank you, Mr. Campbell. And I think we are ready to have the city clerk call the roll.
Mr. Nash.
Aye.
Mr. Volleson.
Aye.
Ms. Powers.
Aye.
Mr. Hagan.
Aye.
Ms. Sanchez Jones. And Vice Mayor McGuire.
Aye, and the ordinance passes. Thank you all. Next up, we have approval and adoption of the Washington Park Master Plan. We have one measure and ordinance for adoption, and I need a motion and a second, please.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Sanchez Jones and Mr. Nash. And Ms. McCoy, could you please read the title paragraph?
An ordinance approving and adopting the Washington Park Master Plan, authorizing the city manager or designee to execute any required documentation on behalf of the city, and dispensing with the second reading of this ordinance by title.
Thank you very much, Ms. McCoy. Ms. Turner, do you have any comments?
I do. Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. This is a follow-up to Ms. Katie Slusher's presentation that she provided at the last council meeting. The Washington Park Master Plan provides a long-term framework for the future improvements and development of Washington Park, reflecting community input and priorities identified through the planning process. Adoption will help guide future investments, support grant opportunities, and move the project into design and implementation.
Thank you very much, Ms. Turner. Any questions or discussion from council? Well, I will just say I'm very excited, and I really appreciate all of staff's work on this plan. It looks incredible. I know we'll have to take it in bite-sized chunks. We won't be able to do it all at once, but I really appreciate the time and work that's gone into it, and I think it's a great park. It's just going to keep getting better, so thank you. And if there's no comments or discussion, I will ask the city clerk to please call the roll.
Mr. Nash.
Aye.
Mr. Volleson.
Aye.
Ms. Powers.
Aye.
Mr. Hagan.
Aye.
Ms. Sanchez Jones. Vice Mayor McGuire.
Aye, and the ordinance passes. Thank you all. Last up for the day is recommendations for unused American Rescue Plan Act, or ARPA, funding. We have one measure for adoption, a resolution, and I need a motion and a second, please.
So move.
Nash. And thank you, Mr. Volleson. Ms. McCoy, would you please read the title paragraph?
A resolution authorizing the city manager or designee to execute amendments to the various memorandums of understanding on behalf of the city with agencies that previously received American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA funds, in order to reallocate unspent ARPA funds, approving the recommendations of the city manager to reallocate such funds, and authorizing the city manager or designee to make such amendments and such reallocation to ensure all ARPA funds are expended by December 31st, 2026.
McCoy, Ms. Turner, do you have comments for us?
I do. I'd also like to call up Helen Ferguson, who's our grants manager. This item addresses about approximately $1.47 million in unused ARPA funding resulting from project savings, scope adjustments, and completed projects. The recommended approach is to redirect these remaining funds to shovel-ready, high-priority initiatives so the city can fully utilize the federal funding before the required expenditure date. And I want Ms. Ferguson to kind of go over the process that we took to identify these particular agencies and some of the internal projects as well.
Ms. Ferguson, for being with us. Turn it
Good
over to you.
afternoon, Vice Mayor McGuire, members of council, Ms. Turner. So really to the organizations that we have before us, 5 of these organizations were chosen because they submitted applications to our CDBG public service application process. You may have heard or remember a small briefing about that earlier. We actually ran out of funding, and so those are how those organizations were selected. You guys have spoken previously about the possibility of there being ARPA funding available, and so we did have some organizations reach out. Some of those organizations qualified due to the fact that they previously had ARPA funding, some did not. Then we did have one organization that did not reach out but was high on the list due to their ability to spend the funding in the timeline, the very, very tight timeline that we have. And then we have our internal department that we have shovel-ready projects that we've heard a lot about from the community, which would be our Parks and Recs department, in particular playgrounds. And so the playgrounds, and I have Katie Slusher here to help me because playgrounds are not my forte. Ridgewood, Countryside, and Thrasher Playground are on the list. And so that is how the selection process went through. So for the most part, all the organizations reached out and submitted a plan on how they could utilize the funds in a timely manner with shovel-ready projects.
Ferguson? I think we have some questions. I'll start on the end. Ms. Powers?
So, from reading this, I want to know that the ARPA funds now have been reconciled, and we're sure that this is the balance left that we can use by the end of the year?
Yeah, very good question. We are sure we can use these funds. We are still working to do some internal balancing. I have Ms. Harris, Aquinet is here. Ms. Harris to assist with that question as well. We are still working on some internal things as invoices are still coming in, but we are pretty sure we have a solid number, and this is what will be remaining. And so we want to make sure we get it out in the community so that we can be solid by December 31st.
My next question is, since our strategic priorities are civic stewardship and infrastructure, there wasn't anything that the city of Roanoke could use these funds for? The reason I'm asking this is because I just don't want our citizens to come back and think we're just rubber stamping something when they know that, you know, we increased meals tax last year to help us with deferred maintenance. I just want to make sure there's none of this money that we could use for our own expenses.
I think that's a very good question. Timeline and timeliness is really the issue here. And then we have to make sure that the contractor was a contractor that received ARPA funding from us before. So we do have contractors that we are currently using, but not all of them received ARPA funding. And so that is the key component when we go back and look. We can't just go get, like, just because if we're using them now, if they weren't a contractor before, we can't just add them and give them ARPA money now. So I think that's a key piece, is that they had to meet that criteria that they received ARPA funding from us before.
I may follow up on that for clarification. So I think what Ms. Powers is asking is, why can't the city, like, is there like a construction project or something like that, that the city itself could put that towards instead of using a partner?
The city would have to do the work and couldn't use an outside contractor.
Okay.
And most of the big projects that I can think of right now that probably you guys like, we couldn't use an outside contractor. That means our staff would have to physically do the work.
If I can add, Mr. Yeah, we also want to make sure that we're not supplanting funds as well, because these are federal funds.
Sorry, no.
We also want to make sure we're not supplanting funds, because these are federal funds. So we've already had funds, like whether it was from VDOT or already previously allocated, then we'd have to look at it from that regard as well.
I'm just asking these questions because I'll just be real honest with you. It saddens me to know that from the beginning that we got $65 million of money and we didn't use enough of it to help for our own infrastructure, that we might have had, that we did raise taxes to help with this. And I hope that in the future we don't have to do this, because I think we should have done a little bit better job with these ARPA funds.
Yes, ma'am.
But I do appreciate the work that you've done.
Yes, ma'am.
Powers, does anyone else have any questions? Mr. Hagan?
More of a comment than a question. So obviously, there's a lot of very good organizations that are receiving a lot of this money. One of the concerns that I will have is that if any of this money gets used for things that are recurring, because this is a one-time allotment, so just something to be aware of if you are, say, an executive of a organization in the room or listening. Just please consider that as we move forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you all for all the work you do.
Yes, sir. Mr. Volleson.
I follow up on Mr. Hagan's question. Is there, do we know how much of the funding is being used for capital expenses at these organizations, and which is used for, if there is any that's being operationally used?
I do not have that number calculated in front of me, but I can get it to you. I will say that a lot of the organizations on here do have heavy grant profiles and are strong grant writing organizations. And so I do think that they will find meaningful ways and other grant opportunities to replace what they are getting.
I do have a follow-up question then. So going forward, when we talked about how you give money to the organizations and they have to fill out that application, and that you were going to do a benchmarking to say, okay, what did you do with this money? How did you use it? Are these organizations going to have to be able to do that to show the city how they spent this money? And really, basically, what's the return on our investment that we're giving them this money?
Yes.
I think our citizens deserve to see that.
Yes, ma'am. As part of the ARPA requirement, they will have to do that as part of the monitoring as well. And so we are starting that process as well. And so a lot of organizations have been hearing from me, asking for different information. And we will continue that process as long as, until we get all the required documents submitted for this particular pot of funding.
And I know this has been a lot of ongoing work, and I want to thank you for that, because I'm sure it's been frustrating and tireless at times to deal with, but thank you for all the work that you have done on it. I do appreciate that.
Nash.
Question. It may be a few questions. So one of my first one is for the $432K for the parks. How were those three parks determined to be the ones in which these funds would be used on, in comparison to some of the other parks that we have within our park system?
That's a very good question. So I did ask for a list of parks because a lot of our parks do need maintenance. And as Ms. Turner said, we did look at shovel-ready. Some of our parks still need an actual plan, a design plan, which delays the time in which we can get the park done. And so the parks presented here are the ones that we can actually act on the quickest, which will allow us to meet our deadlines.
So are these parks that there's been a plan in place for perhaps some time and we've never had the funding to do the project that was planned for? Or like, I'm just curious because like, I don't, like Ridgewood Park, I've never heard of that park before.
So for
I don't
that,
know.
I am going to yield to Ms. Lesher.
Welcome, Ms. Lesher.
Hi, members of council, Vice Mayor McGuire. So to answer your question, we have had a lot of lines in the water over the past year trying to find funding for some of these replacement playgrounds that are pretty overdue. So Ridgewood was one. We had already developed a design. We had been looking at HUD funding for it. There were a number of reasons that didn't align. So with Countryside, that's a damaged swing that has been out of commission, and we did not have enough money to replace it. So that one's, again, a pretty quick and easy replacement. Thrasher similarly was queued up for another funding source. We were already working through some development of that, and that funding fell through. So we've really tried to, the ones that we already have that head start on. And then we're also, it's not that these are the only ones in progress, right? Those, that kind of search for other funding. You'll recall with the discussion about this year's HUD funding, we're looking at potentially doing a playground with some of that money. We have deferred maintenance capital funding this year that we're going to try and do a couple more. So really holistically, we're hopefully going to be doing a number of them. These are just the ones that aligned best with the really tight timeline of this funding source.
One question specifically about Thrasher. I know I brought this up when we did our park comprehensive plan with that gentleman. But I had brought up the dog park there and how like the dog park there is just like a fenced in field. And we have like 780 apartment units going in, like not very far away from Thrasher. I don't know if they're dog friendly or not, but you know, why is there not a plan for the dog park there?
No current plans for that. And again, that comes back to the contractor issue of if we were going to move on something like that, we would already have to have contracted with someone who could do that work and had nothing to do for the next 2 months, basically, and could kind of immediately move on that. So we reached out to, there were a number of options we looked at, reached out to contractors as well to make sure, you know, before we committed to anything that they could agree to that timeline. And so again, this was the triangulation of a lot of factors.
Thank you very much. That's all my park questions. I mean, I don't know. I agree with my colleagues to the left of me with the infrastructure aspect, and I understand the limitations and the challenges and the complexities of how to use these funds. But yeah, I just think that, you know, like there's 2 organizations on this list. I mean, our parks aside, take that out the equation, but there's 2 organizations on this list that I'm like extremely supportive of the funds going towards because I've had a chance to talk to their leadership about the plans and the use and the continuation of some programming that they helped to put on that I think is a great return on investment for our city, like Downtown Ambassadors. I think that's a great return on investment program for us. So I don't know. It's about 715K that I don't know if I'm supportive of. So, well, 436K that I don't know if I'm supportive of. So that's all my comment.
Powers?
So speaking of that, and it's hard to remember what all we've talked about in the past, but the DRI, and we have talked about the ambassador program, is this $250,000 going to help them keep that program?
That is a question for DRI.
Out of here. Oh, there you are. Good. Because, and the reason why I ask that is if we lose that program, that is funding that the city of Roanoke would have to pick up and do, you know, to keep downtown cleaned up. So I want to make sure that the $250,000 is going to help the ambassador program?
Absolutely. So that program costs roughly around $600,000 a year to implement. We are entering into our 4th year and signing that contract in September. So yes, it will help continue that program. Thank you.
I had one question about the allocation amounts, was that based off of applications that groups submitted requesting those?
Yes, that was based off of previous applications or expression of need. In some cases, they asked for more.
I was going to ask if you had any information on, I think I do know how some of these bigger chunks of money are planned to be spent, but I was going to ask, and I see we have a representative here, what that $110,000 to the rescue mission, the intentions were there.
Vice Mayor McGuire and council members, I'm Lee Clark, CEO for the Rescue Mission, and we appreciate the opportunity to apply for this extension of funding. The two main projects that we will be using the money for, with Mr. Hagan's comment earlier, would be capital funding. We have in our dining room, which was added on to our facility in 2001. The facility is about 25 years old. We need new HVAC systems for that building that equips us to be able to provide 3 meals a day, 7 days a week, and an environment that's comfortable and welcoming for our guests. About $40,000 of that request will be used for the HVAC system. The second half of it would be used for transportation. You all know that in partnership with Downtown Roanoke Inc. and with the Ram House, we instituted radar transportation between the rescue mission and the day shelter on a 7-day-a-week basis in the mornings and the afternoons. But that leaves a gap in transportation needs that are more specific, like going to a housing appointment, going to the DMV to get IDs, going to a medical appointment. We use the other $60,000 approximately to be able to purchase a new passenger vehicle that will enable us to do the transports for those more specific needs for our guests. We're doing that on a daily basis. Today, for example, we took a group of folks to Virginia Western Community College to do a tour there and to learn more about how they could continue their education toward employment. That's just one example of how we would use the funding. But it would be for those two items, for HVAC system for our dining room, which is a large expense to be able to replace those units on the roof of our dining room, and then again, the passenger vehicle. Sure.
That explanation, that's helpful. That was my only question. Anyone else? Ms. Powers?
You have a question. So I just want to ask you guys, in the past, I know you had some property that was boarded up. I believe you might have sold one of them. Do you have other properties that are vacant? And can you just tell me what your plans are to use that property? Or are you going to sell it? Or hopefully you're not going to leave it empty?
Actually, we don't have any vacant properties at this time. The last building that we had, we actually transferred over to Restoration Housing last year, and they are in the process of bringing that back as affordable housing. But we don't have any other properties that are boarded up or aren't utilized currently. Ms. Powers, you remember last year we came before council with rezoning for our Gateway property. We're working in partnership with Homes for America to build 154 affordable housing units on that site. We should start the construction in spring of 2027, but there are no vacant buildings on that property. So every building that we currently own is up, running, and is being used for the purpose.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for updating us on that.
Of course. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, my quick comments are, thank you very much, Ms. Ferguson, for the update and your work on this. I am supportive of this, but I will be honest, and this is not at all directed to current staff, but I'm also share Ms. Powers' frustration that these funds, we were not able to use all of them or more of them for direct capital needs, which we know we have, and we are considering tax increases to pay for. So I respect very much, and I know that all of these organizations are going to, I trust will put these funds to good use, but I just don't love that this is how we're doing this, and I just need to be transparent about that. But thank you very much for your work. Ms. Sanchez-Jones, did you have a comment?
Yes, I do. I just want to
Go
say
ahead.
thank you, Ms. Turner, for putting some money into parks. I know some of these parks have not had any work done since 2001, so thank you.
All right. If there are no other comments or questions, I will ask the city clerk to call the roll.
Mr. Nash?
Aye.
Collison?
Aye.
Ms. Powers?
Aye.
Mr. Hagan?
Aye.
Ms. Sanchez-Jones? And Vice Mayor McGuire.
Aye, and the resolution passes. Thank you all. Those were all of our items that we needed to vote on. I will turn now to comments from the city manager. Ms. Turner, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor and Mayor. I'm sorry, Mayor's not here, but members of council. I am pleased and excited to welcome 2 new city team members, and I'm going to ask them to stand. First is Kathy Stripling, our new sustainability manager, and Natalie Tallis, who is our new strategic project manager. Kathy Stripling most recently served as executive director of the Blue Ridge Crossroads Small Development Business Center, where she led certain initiatives and funding compliance, provided technical assistance, and collaborated with local and state organizations to support entrepreneurship, in Southwest Virginia. As relates to sustainability, Kathy previously served as the Sustainability Program Director at Community Housing Partners, a nonprofit affordable housing organization which, with a focus on strategy and implementation of reduced emissions, energy, and water use across more than 100 properties. Kathy has experience building the benchmarking frameworks and impact narratives needed to secure project funding and meet reporting requirements, and has presented her sustainability work with deep roots in Southwest Virginia. Kathy has been an active civic leader, serving as the chair of the Town of Pulaski Architectural Review Board. She was a founding member and board president of the Pulaski on Main and other local boards and planning committees. She holds a bachelor's degree in housing, interior design, and resource management from Virginia Tech, and now resides in the city of Roanoke. Next, Ms. Tallis, she has a master's in public health, brings more than 15 years of experience leading strategic initiatives, building coalitions, and working alongside residents and communities to solve complex problems. Most recently, she served as a population health manager at the City of Alexandria Health Department, where she launched the city's first Healthy Home Initiative, developed new approaches to community health assessments and improvement plans, and provided technical assistance to city agencies, businesses, nonprofits, and faith leaders. During COVID-19 response, Natalie also served as the Health Department's Public Information Officer, leading communications and community engagement efforts and developing vaccine distribution systems designed to ensure equitable access to all residents. Previously, Natalie served as a policy associate with the National Farm to School Network, where she advocated for common sense child nutrition and agricultural policies and held communication roles in the private sector. Natalie has earned her numerous recognitions, including the 40 Under 40 honor from the Alexandria Chamber of Commerce, a Community Champion Award from the Alexandria Redevelopment and Housing Authority, and a Public Service Award from the Alexandria Commission on Aging. She holds a Master of Public Health with a concentration in health policy from George Washington University and a Bachelor of Arts in French from John Carroll University. She's a graduate of the University of Virginia's Institute Political Leadership Program, and currently completing Virginia Tech's Local Government Management Certification Program. Natalie is relocating to the region with her husband, daughter, and 2 cats. Welcome.
Welcome. It was Ms. Kathy Strickland and Natalie Tallis.
Yes.
Welcome to you both. Thank you very much for being here. Excited to have you on board.
Yes, we're very, very excited to have both of them. And my last comment is, please join the Greater Roanoke Transit Company for a ribbon cutting and grand opening celebration for the Valley View Walmart Transit Stop and Shelter. It will be on Friday, August the 21st, in the Walmart parking lot at 10 o'clock. And that concludes my comments for today, Vice Mayor McGuire.
Thank you, Ms. Turner. I feel like that is going to be a party. That
Long,
Walmart
long
bus stop
overdue.
has been a long time coming.
A long time coming.
15 years, I believe.
Thank you very much. That's good to hear. I do not believe we have any updates from the city attorney. I do not believe we have any updates from our director of real estate valuation. Moving to item 8 on the, I'm sorry.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes,
I'm so
ma'am.
sorry. We do have council follow-up today.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no.
Absolutely.
So I have the community engagement.
Mr. Fajardo.
Pajaro will go over our updates.
Come on down. I'm sorry about that.
No, it's okay, thank you.
Good afternoon, Vice Mayor McGuire, members of City Council, City Manager Turner. The community engagement team followed up with residents who shared their comments, concerns, and suggestions during the July 20th and August 3rd meetings, providing acknowledgement that their comments were noted. Additional follow-up was provided for 3 comments. The first was related to deer culling. 2 residents spoke before council at the July 20th meeting expressing concerns about the deer population. Both speakers received an acknowledgement that their comments were noted. Since that time, Deputy Chief Crawley has presented to you at the August 3rd meeting, explaining why the deer population is growing, how the culling program works, and presented potential alternatives moving forward. The second was related to the historic Gainsborough home rehab. 4 residents shared concerns around the city's commitment of ARPA dollars to rehab homes in historic Gainsborough, specifically at 23 Gilmer Avenue. Community engagement followed up with those residents, providing acknowledgements that their comments were noted and indicating that their contact information was provided to the city administration for follow-up. The city manager and members of the city administration met with the historic Gainsborough Preservation District on July 27th. City officials explained that this property was not owner-occupied when the grant application was filed, which is a requirement. Therefore, the property does not meet the guidelines for grant funding. Additionally, the property is currently uninhabitable and needs repairs that extend beyond the allocated funding amount, including a new foundation. To bring the home up to code, the anticipated costs are expected to exceed the contracted amount by hundreds of thousands of dollars. The city manager has instructed housing programs and policy officer to coordinate a site visit with the contractor and homeowner's family to conduct a full assessment of costs for the rehab project. And finally, related to zoning, at the August 3rd meeting, a resident spoke before council about how the city's zoning code would apply to a property he owns in Southeast. Assistant City Manager Humans conducted a review of this request with Planning, Building, and Development, and staff met with the resident on August 11th to explain how zoning code impacts his property. And that concludes our report back on public matter follow-up.
Questions or comments? Ms. Powers?
So I am still getting emails from the people in Southeast, and they did mention that somebody had reached out to them in the early part of August, but they're still having issues, and they're saying they have not had any other follow-up. So I'm not real sure how to follow back up with her, but I'm telling you, just about every other day, I'm getting videos from her with issues of, like the last one that I got just a few days ago was a person literally trying to get into their door and then went to the next house and did the same thing. Actually going into their property. So do I tell her, I mean, she says they call the police, but she says they're not getting any follow-up on this stuff.
I remember, I'm sorry, Mr. McGuire.
Yes, ma'am, please, Ms. Turner.
I remember the conversation you and I had about this particular individual, and we did reach out to her. I will follow back up. I would find it difficult to believe that Chief Booth and his team did not reach out to her, but I will definitely put that on my radar back again. Yeah,
I don't
no,
know.
I'll definitely reach back out to make sure.
I just don't know how to follow back up with her when I get these videos
Okay.
that, I mean, the videos are real, and you can tell it's dark, it's night, so.
I have a question. and maybe Ms. Turner, could maybe we talk about or consider asking Chief Booth to sometime give us just a update on, how things, because I think in particular, I think sometimes it happens seasonally, the uptick in some of the bad behavior that's tied to mental health and drug use, and we know that sometimes that can uptick in the summer. I do believe that there has been an increase in certain neighborhoods worse than years prior. I believe that. I don't think people are making that up. And it's also probably not the best way to solve it for those residents to be calling you directly. I think if we could get some information maybe from the police chief, just reiterating how they're addressing and handling this, and I don't know, give us some more information to give back to them, but just to give an opportunity for the chief to talk about, because I know they're working on this and it's on their radar, but we do hear a lot from residents about it.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. And one of the things that I'll do is, once I have the chief come back, I'll also have Mr. Cruikshank and Mr. Winter to come back as well to talk about the internal, I hate to call it a task force, I think we're calling it internal team that has been put together that deal with our unhoused population a little more holistically. So I'll bring back an update on all of that. So I'll let you and the mayor know what date we can come back, but I'm thinking maybe either the second meeting in September or the first meeting in October. But we'll deal with your constituents' concerns.
She's very nice,
Yeah.
and
No, she was nice.
she's not,
Yeah,
a hard person to deal with, that I think they're just getting very frustrated because they just feel like, that there's no end to this. I mean, they're literally strapping down their furniture on their front porch. They had to put in real electrical lights because they use the solar lights and they get stolen. So, and when she sends me an email and said, how would you like to have all your stuff stolen? I wouldn't. So, but thank you all. I know the city does a great job, the HAT team does a great job, and it's a hard thing to tackle, but, I don't want her to think that we just push her aside.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Ms. Powers, thank you, Mr. Fajardo. Oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Sanchez-Jones.
I just have a question for Ms.
Don't
Carter.
go away.
Does the owner of the house on 23 Gilmer, does she understand why she's not eligible for any grant funding to fix the house?
So we met with the Gainsborough with them. I had Mr. Winter and the contractor to go out to provide an estimate on see what it would actually cost to do it. And we're going to try to get it done. It just depends on what that estimate is. Because we've been hearing a lot of different numbers. I know Mr. Winter, when he just kind of went out from the outside, he felt just with his experience, it'll be much more than $250,000.
Thank you.
So we've had that conversation, so they know that we're going out and trying. Thank you.
Sounds like it predates your team's time, but there was an initial error, it sounds like, in the application that could have maybe avoided a lot of this from the very beginning. So I think that's a good reminder for all of us to dot the i's and cross the t's, because the house, it sounds like, was never eligible. So it's a tough situation, but thank you, Ms. Turner. Any other questions or comments from the community follow-up? Okay, sorry to jump ahead of that. Number 8 on the agenda was reports of committees. Are there any comments from members who serve on certain boards, authorities, committees, or commissions as liaisons or appointees in which you would like to report? I think I saw Mr. Vollison's hand go up first.
Yeah, so today at the Regional Commission Executive Committee meeting, we passed a draft legislation, our draft legislative priorities, which each of y'all should have gotten a copy of. We are looking to have a full commission vote on that, I believe, next week. So if you have any comments, please get them back to me so I can get those possibly taken care of. But a lot of the Regional Commission priorities are similar to our priorities when it comes to the airport, outdoor infrastructure, increasing funding for roads and things like that. So I'm really proud of the work that the Regional Commission did on that. And then the second thing I wanted to bring up is, actually, I think this is more of a question for Ms. Turner. I was wondering where the city's apology for urban renewal stands with the EEAB. That is something that I would like to get done with in the next 5 months. And so I wanted to know if we could get a status update and start to move the ball on that.
I'll get it. I don't have that with me today, but I'll definitely get an update for you in the next meeting.
Allison, Ms. Powers?
I just wanted to let you know that I attended the RVTV committee meeting, and they are working on the new contract, and I believe it is our attorney's office is reviewing it as well, and it'll be going to Roanoke County and Vinton for their review, and then we'll be getting that back to, will we review that before we have to vote on anything? Is there?
Good, certainly, yes, we can, it has to be voted on by the localities at some point, so yes.
So I just wanted to let you know that that work is in motion to get done. Yeah, thank you.
Powers? Any other updates? Great. We have no unfinished business, and so we will move to item 10, which is introduction and consideration of ordinances and resolutions. We have one, a resolution approving establishing a revised passenger fare schedule for the Greater Roanoke Transit Company, GRTC, doing business as Valley Metro. We have one measure for adoption, a resolution, and can I please have a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Volleson and Ms. Sanchez-Jones. And I will ask the city clerk to please read the title paragraph.
A resolution approving/establishing a revised passenger fare schedule for the Greater Roanoke Transit Company doing business as Valley Metro, and authorizing the city manager to take any necessary action to accomplish the implementation of such fare schedule.
Thank you very much, Ms. McCoy. Ms. Turner, do you have any comments? Okay, thank you. Any discussion, questions, or comments from council? Mr. Nash?
So we see the rates that it will be effective January 1, 27, but what are the current rates? I don't know.
Mr. Price is here. The current, I'll let him. Go ahead, I'm going to let you do it.
Come on down. Welcome, Mr. Price.
Good afternoon, Vice Mayor McGuire, members of council. The current rates, basically, if you look at the base fare, the current is $1.75. And then as you go down to a half fare, it'd be 85 cents. So basically, you're adding 25 cents to the base fare. And then the passes, they go from, for example, one of the passes goes from 112, I think, to 128, and that is the paratransit pass. So, and that's based off a certain percentage of discount for each pass.
That impact, I don't see radar listed. Does their price?
So that's mean that the STAR program.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
One follow-up.
Yes, sir, Mr. Volleson.
Did the GRTC vote on this already?
They did, yes, sir.
How did they vote?
Affirmative.
A good question, thank you. Ms. Sanchez-Jones.
How long ago was the last time we raised the rates for the bus?
The last time we raised fares was in 2018. And you can imagine what has changed since 2018 and things we've accomplished since then. So it's been a while.
Other questions or comments?
Oh, this is just a legal one. Oh, city code requires it. Thank you. Okay, why do we have to vote on this if GRTC has already voted on it?
City code requires it.
Okay.
That's why it's approving/establishing, that's what the code says, so that's how we wrote it.
Thank you.
Bryce, I don't think we have any more questions or discussion, so I will ask the city clerk to please call the roll.
Mr. Nash?
Aye.
Mr. Volleson?
Aye.
Ms. Powers?
Aye.
Mr. Hagan?
Aye.
Ms. Sanchez-Jones? And Vice Mayor McGuire.
Aye, and the resolution passes. Thank you. Item 11 is motions and miscellaneous business. Are there any council members who have any comments that they would like to give at this time? Mr. Volleson.
I want to congratulate Ms. Tallis. She was one of my Sorensen classmates, and so I was shocked to hear her voice, or to know that she was hired. I hadn't heard anything about it, but I'm so glad that you're with us. So thank you.
Allison. All right, we do not have any vacancies to report at this time, so we are going to stand in recess until our 7 PM meeting.